Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Somebody, anybody, really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
A precursor to the Majors 24 just 3 weeks away, this points-paying Le Mans 2.4 is an ever-important tune-up for drivers and teams of all kinds, making this one of the more significant dates on the calendar. In excess of 40 cars and drivers are checked in and ready to go top split racing in this edition of the Majors Americas region. Welcome to Pit Stop TV and the virtual Le Mans France. My name is Andrew Cardinale IV with Zach Lindgren alongside, and it's a pleasure to join you for coverage of the 2025 Major Series. Today's coverage is, of course, brought to you by the Major Series, by the Majors Garage, and by Whiplash SimCams. Zach, thanks for joining me today. This is race number 6 of 12 in the points-paying rounds of the Majors in 2025. Over a decade has gone into this series. Over a decade has led up to this particular race this evening. 3 splits of the Americas region with an influx of entries coming into today. A bunch of drivers ready to go racing in, as I mentioned, this precursor event to the Majors 24 just a few weeks away. And this is one that everybody wants to cross off their list.
I feel like you just kind of alluded to it there, Andrew. The fact of 3 splits, having to cover many drivers, all filled out, wanting to get into this type of race. I think it just goes to show how big the Major Series is. But looking at this track, the history, I mean, what can you say that hasn't already been said about Le Mans? I mean, the history that this track has provided, they made a movie about this, for crying out loud, about this track, about this race. So the history that this track holds, not only to iRacers, but to racers every day in general. You mentioned Le Mans. I mean, obviously this is the place that their mind comes to. This is one of the biggest tracks, one of the biggest names. As we look at the racetrack map now, I mean, honestly, there's so many passing opportunities. There's a little technical spots, but I mean, obviously you got to make it through 1 through 10 just to kind of set yourself up for the Mulsanne Straight, just to give yourself a chance. Obviously getting through everything, Mulsanne down there at 14 and 15, the straight to Indianapolis. I mean, this track is, even though there's a lot of straightaway to it, it's a very technical track. You got to put yourself in positions to both draft and pass. It's a very fun track, and I'm excited and looking forward to what the Majors has to offer here.
It's going to be a fun one for sure. There you have a look at the track map for Le Mans. We can take a look as well at the point standings coming into today for the driver's side of the Americas region. Nathan Dowd with 3 wins. He still sits on top over Robert Nash and Christian Challenger, who most recently went to victory lane in the Speedway 500 a month ago. Dallas Mataska, that World 600 victory, has him 4th. Vincent LaHerbier, Ross Banfield, Ryan Steele, and Ray Partridge, all some drivers that are high in the standings looking for their first win of 2025. Could it come today in one of these classes? And of course, worth noting, in the Major Series, usually a race win is 250 points. Today, a class victory is worth 229, and it'll titrate down from there. Keep an eye on the Major Series website for standings leaving this round. We'll, of course, be doing so before the Majors 24 in a couple of weeks. Let's take a look at it as well at the schedule coming into today. This is round number 6 of 12 for points paying rounds this season. We have the Majors 24 slotted in there as one of the rounds of the Major Series, but of course it's technically a part of MEC, the Majors Endurance Calendar, and it's kind of just slotted in here because it's a technicality, right? We're covering it as a part of this Major Series in 2025, but when we go racing for 24 hours in a couple of weeks, it will not be for points. This is the points paying round at Le Mans here this evening, so a lot to look forward to and a lot riding on this particular race here today. As we break into the iRacing.com sim here, warm-up is already concluded, actually. It just ended, and these drivers are getting ready to go racing. There you see, we're in staging now. So warm-up is already done. These guys, they pre-qualified, of course, for this event. They're getting broken down into their grids as we speak, and there you see them loading into the sim, loading into the session, and loading into their cars as well. Let's take a look quickly at, I'll verbally go through the top 5 of each class. We're going to let the full Lucky Performance overall grid run by on the bottom of your screen, and that will start scrolling through now, but I'll go through audibly at least the top 5 in each class to start this race. Ross Banfield, Nathan Dowd, Vincent LaHerbier, Zeke Gabani, and Sebastian Jackson are your top 5 starters in Hypercar. Down at LMP2, it's Christian Challenger, Travis Worling, Robert Northway, Austin Peterson, and Robert Nash, your top 5 starters, and that's about 15th through 19th overall on the grid. So 14 Hypercars, I think about 15 LMP2 cars, and then down in GT3, Tyler Campbell in car number 01 will bring us to the green flag there. Austin O'Neill from 2nd, Christian Abate 3rd, Brenton Foster, and Kevin Hill, your top 5 starters down in GT3. While these names continue to roll by on the bottom of your screen, we want to take a look at the Whiplash SimCam's race details for this event. This is a 2.4 hour or 145 minute race with unlimited tires, Zach, 100% fuel load, open setup, 1 fast fix, and we actually do, I didn't quite update that last bullet point. We expect 1 full course yellow. I'll do it now. We'll do it live. Let me type it in. If I could type it correctly. I was having trouble typing a minute ago, typing Zach's name in my script. There we go. 1 full course yellow expected in this race. We'll go over that in more detail when that time comes, but it took about 33 minutes to get through 1 full course yellow through this procedure in the I believe it was the European split I was watching, there were 2 time slots that already happened for this event, the international time slot and the European time slot. I timed out in the European race on GSRC 33 minutes to get through that full course yellow procedure. It is a lengthy procedure, but it adds so much to this race, and it's a great way to get into habit of getting through that procedure in preparation for the Majors 24 in a couple of weeks, because we'll be using the same procedure in that race as well. Already the GTP hypercar field is working us through the Corvette chicanes and into the Ford chicanes. Continue to look for your favorite driver on the bottom of the screen and where they're starting this race from. 44 cars ready to go racing in this 2.4 hour affair. Zach, I know we're all chomping at the bit to get racing and get this event underway. Want to take a quick look at weather conditions. 70.2 degrees in the air, 81 degree track temp, at least Fahrenheit there. And here we go into the Ford chicanes. We are about to go racing. We'll take the grid down, take the weather down, and let these boys go racing. We are racing in France in the Le Mans 2.4 hour in the Major Series, and already one car is spun around. Zeke Kabani off of the Ford chicanes will go for a spin. Otherwise, a very clean and orderly start for the hypercars. Now the LMP2's turn. It's going to be Christian Challenger leading us into the start zone for the LMP2s, and so far, all nice and dandy, peachy keen, hunky-dory for the LMP2s as they roll by the start-finish line. But next up, the GT3 field. Here they come, Zach.
Through the last little bit of corners, the GT3 probably the most stockiest part of this series. They look like they're getting through a bit orderly there. Nothing really to write home about. They're side by side coming through the final corners there towards the back of the GT3s, but they get through there cleanly. Nothing really as of note there as we come up through the first part of the Le Mans track.
Jesse Canales has already taken a header there in car 523. Driver out of New York is already towed back to the pit lane. Let's check in with the rest of our field as they work down the Mulsanne straight for the first time. It seems they've gotten through Tetra Rouge and the S's and whatnot to get onto this Mulsanne straight nice and cleanly. I only see the one car off pace, and that is Canales now in 43rd position. Let's get the ticker up on the screen. This is where everybody sits in their 3 respective classes. We also want to put up the class guide on the top right hand side of your screen. That'll tell you what class is what.
You really got to pay attention to that, because as soon as we finally start intermingling the cars, which is going to take a while because this track is is ginormous, but once we start intermingling cars, that's really going to start throwing off names, looks, and everything. So that's going to be really helpful down the line. But everybody right now seems orderly fashion. The first 3 have kind of pulled off in the supercars. As we look now coming off one of the last chicanes coming down to the Mulsanne curve, still pretty decently close with how close. Oh, big move here.
It's going to be Dino Vela going for a move on Robert Covey down to the Mulsanne corner. He's got Ryan Steele in behind, side by side, heads up racing to the Mulsanne corner here as the Ferrari of Dino Vela will make the pass and contact there. Covey's going to go for a slide. It looks like the car is okay, but a problem there for Robert Covey on lap number 1. A tip around by, I think that was Ryan Steele that got him, and I do wonder if that's going to be a protest and if maybe that comes back to bite Ryan Steele later on in just a lap or so. Down in LMP2, we've already got a battle for the race lead. Christian Challenger, Travis Worling, as they have gone through the Mulsanne corner and head down to Indianapolis and Arnage.
And this is a really, really difficult corner to get into, especially for these aero cars, just because you're coming off of a slight bend coming into a hard left-hander, so you can really be aggressive, but it can also snap the car on around you. Here's that one little curve coming into the Indianapolis corner. They seem to be orderly as of right now, but as the race starts to come down, a little wiggle from the leader there. As it starts to come down to it, it's going to get more and more aggressive as the race comes down to it.
Also watching Robert Northway, Austin Peterson, and Robert Nash in the LMP2 field. LMP2 has historically been a lot of fun to watch because this is a truly spec class here on iRacing. In the real world, you get different manufacturers, different chassis manufacturers. Orica, Dallara, I believe Ligier might have an LMP2 chassis. But in iRacing, it's just the Dallara P217, so it's a truly spec class of racing here at the very top end of endurance racing. But you're your top three across the line to complete lap number 1 here in the Le Mans 2.4. It's going to be Banfield, Dowd, and LaHerbier. Banfield leading very spectacularly considering Nathan Dowd led the way in warm-up. He was fastest in that session. He's got some work to do in his Cadillac to keep out a Porsche of Banfield.
And we were talking about this before pre-race, Andrew, about how most of these guys, if not all of them, are pretty much using this as a spot for the 24 that you alluded to earlier. Most of these guys right now are probably trying to fill out what cold tires do, what the draft does, especially on cold tires. So right now they're just kind of filling it out as you see a battle here coming up to turn 1. Big kind of, not even a block really, but he just kind of shut the door coming into the bit of a carousel here.
Oh, Northway loose there at the first apex of the Dunlop chicane, and there was a pass for the race lead in LMP2 already. Christian Challoner losing that spot. Travis Worling going through. Challoner has now backed up over a second behind Worling, and he was just ahead of Northway when Northway made that mistake going through turn number 2. That has split up the LMP2 field quite a bit, so our eyes will turn now down to GT3, where Tyler Campbell has the race lead after 1 lap. Austin O'Neill is in second, and worth noting, through both of the other 2 broadcasted splits, the top splits of International and European, it was a largely McLaren field in GT3. But so far in this race, Tyler Campbell leads in a Mustang, and I believe that's an Acura sitting in second. It is. Austin O'Neill in an Acura. Very impressive that we're seeing a bit more parity between these car choices at the top of the GT3 field versus what we've seen in other time slots, Zach. It has been very McLaren across the board until this Americas region.
See, that's one thing that I love about iRacing is when it comes down to GT3, you have so many options. Heck, even the supercars as well. You have so many options to choose from, and each befitting whoever's behind the wheel. As we see the Ford, Acura up front, I mean, it just fits to whoever feels best in the car. With 9 different options to choose from in GT3, I believe 6 in the supercar. There's so many different options, so many different feeling cars. It's really cool to see multiple drivers feeling certain ways about said cars.
Pulling up the event page, I want to say there's five options in Hypercar. Which is still a very diverse class, and I want to use this moment to give props to iRacing, because it was not long ago, Zach, you and I were running Daytona 24s and whatnot, the endurance rounds from the iRacing calendar, where there was one kind of prototype. It was the Corvette Daytona prototype, and that is ancient at this point. We now have a very diverse class of top-end prototypes now. The Hypercar class here is, as we'll be calling it for Le Mans, otherwise known as LMDH or what have you, as there's a lot of gravel there in the Porsche curves. But this is a very diverse top class of prototype racing now. It was not always this way. So I think those of us that have been around for better part of a decade on iRacing can really appreciate what we've got now in the prototype class here on iRacing. There is a battle sparking up at the top end of LMP2 once again. Christian Challoner has used the better part of this lap to run down Travis Worling, and they are catching what looks to be Drew Neubauer, who is at the back end of the prototype, the Hypercar field. There he is in car number 79 as Banfield goes fastest, but the Texan, Neubauer, having some troubles here in his Cadillac. Seems like he will be definitely making all the laps he can in this race to prep for that 24 in a couple of weeks, because he is a little off base right now.
I think we can all agree, though, if you're going to have a problem, you want it to happen right at the beginning of the race. At least you have time to come back from the problem, gain some positions, gain some points. You don't want to have a problem right there at the end of the race where there is no chance of you coming back, as the battle for the lead in the LMP2 class sparks up even more coming through the final 2 corners, coming to the line. Challoner's probably going to have a lot of draft coming through the first part of the track. It's a very, very technical part of the track, so he's going to have to kind of figure out where to place that car. That way he doesn't put himself in harm's way. That way he has a shot through the Mulsanne Straits. Sorry, excuse my language, but or excuse my mess ups. But I think he's setting himself up beautifully right now as far as sticking close to the leader to try to get himself into a position. A little bit of a slip there from the leader, and a little bit more time is chomped into.
So far, so good at the top end of LMP2. While these two are battling, they have kept things nice and clean betwixt one another, and that's always what you want to see. Down in GT3, the battle has broken up a little bit as Tyler Campbell pulls away in car number 01. He's got about 1 second back to Austin O'Neill, who's got about a second himself. Back to Christian Abate in the 09. Brenton Foster, though, right behind. Those are teammates over at the Giga Racing team. It seems Giga Lizard is their moniker for this round. Always one of the more fun teams to check in with. And also, we didn't quite get a replay of what happened to Jesse Canales, but these drivers do have a spare car they're able to use for this event, and Jesse has opted to use his to reattach that front bumper as quickly as possible. Jesse now runs in the 14th position, chasing down the very back end of the GT3 field. He's already been able to pass Wayne Hutchison, which tells me Hutchison likely had a problem here at the beginning of this race. He is 1 lap down and running in 43rd spot.
And again, it just kind of alludes to having a problem early versus having a problem late. Sure, you don't want to use up a fast repair at the start of the race. Obviously, you're not going to have it for the continuation of it. But if you're going to have it, you might as well use it and give yourself a chance to at least make up some points. Like you already said, he's already made up a position, albeit a GT3. He still made up a position, whatnot. But these three up front have not let each other go. They have been constantly on top of each other lap in, lap out, even though we're only, 2-3 laps in. A big track. There's a lot of racing to go through. So the fact that these guys are still right on top of each other, very impressive.
Yeah, I'm really impressed, 2-3 laps in now, that these guys have really had no missteps amongst one another, and they are still on top of each other like this. Banfield, Dowd, and LaHerbier. Nathan Dowd went to victory lane in the hypercar category back at Daytona in the Daytona 2.4, so he is the most recent winner in this category of racing in the major series, at least in the Americas region. He's one that we expect to go back to victory lane today. It's Banfield and LaHerbier, a couple of drivers have an opportunity to upset that. We'll be watching this very closely as the day goes on. But to drop down a bit in this class, in this category, we've also got a couple of Cadillacs fighting here. Tom Dreiling and Ryan Steele so far. And let me check the Majors Discord server to see if maybe there's been a protest or anything. I have not seen any issues yet for Ryan Steele. I don't know if that's going to be a protest from that lap 1 incident with Robert Covey. All I know so far is he hasn't really lost any positions on the racetrack. He's only down in 8th spot. I don't know if that's going to be a protest later on, Zach, or what's going to happen there, but it looks okay.
Yeah, he looks okay right now, following the GT3 through the first sets of corners before the Mulsanne straight. I mean, the move was maybe a little late, but the car to the outside that did end up getting spun, I mean, he had to hold the high side regardless because of the move that the car before him made as we take a look back towards the leaders. But I mean, I don't know. I don't really want to speculate just because I don't know the full entirety of the situation or the rules, so to say, as far as what a protest entails or anything. But to me, it just looked maybe a little late. But as we go back up here towards the leaders, we get a good cockpit view of Dowd here coming through the Mulsanne straight, getting ready to come into the Mulsanne corner after this last little hitch here in the straight. But I mean, sure, it looks straight, it looks decent. He's holding a pretty wheel right now, as Clint Boyer likes to say. But I mean, this is a very, very technical part of the track right here. I keep saying it, but it really is. You really have to get the power down quickly through there, or else you're going to lose a bunch of time. Especially in these cars, if you can hold draft, you're going to be able to stay up with them. But as soon as you lose it, that's when it comes down to both car and driver.
And it seems we've had an issue now for Shane Vickery. We're going to try and go back and find what happened to Vickery, if possible. Here he is, down in LMP2. And we're going to find out on the fly if this is a disconnection or a crash that has happened to Shane. Based on him just dropping down the order on my timing screen, I'm going to speculate that this is likely a disconnection, but he was right in behind the 46 car of Robert Northway in LMP2, so he was about 6th when this happened, and we're just going to let this replay ride until something happens. He was just ahead there, the 122 of Joseph Homans. Yeah, that confirms he was 6th place when this happens. So having a good run to start the day. This is down through the Michelin chicane.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but that's one of the realities when it comes to iRacing, almost like a engine expiring or something going awry on a car in real life. That's just one of the things that iRacers have to deal with is the possible disconnection, whether it be power outage, internet outage, whatever it may be. But it also could very well be just a misstep on the course. He looks to be fine right now, but it's just one of the realities that everybody in iRacing has to face.
So he was 6th while he was running there, and yeah, the car just kind of blinks out of existence all of a sudden, and that's it for Vickery. You saw him there, scored in 15th now. He has lost all those 9 spots and still does not seem to be back in the session. Decent battle now in GTP or Hypercar, whichever one you want to call it, between 3 Cadillacs in the middle of the field. Ryan Steele, David Hall, Zeke Gabani, and Robert Covey is not far behind as Ross Banfield will go fastest there. He has extended his lead about 1 second back to Nathan Dowd. The hypercar category is starting to spread out, but this is a nice move here from Gabani. At least it was a nice move shaping up. Gabani backs out and will have to wait for a better opportunity.
He's just kind of showing nose a little bit there, maybe letting the car in front of him know that he feels like he might have something to pass. A little bit of a scoot away from the car in front of him there. Gabani was probably just kind of letting him know, hey, I'm here, be prepared to battle. But I kind of wanted to go back to the conversation that we had a little while ago, Andrew, about the different cars and makes. The reason we bring that up again, and the reason I'm bringing it up again, is each car has its own kind of personality, its own unique features. Some are good on braking, some are good on throttle, some are good at acceleration, handling. I mean, the decision to choose a certain car does not go just, oh, we're at a certain screen and I just kind of feel like this car will be the best. No, it legitimately takes into account how each driver needs to fill it out, as these guys still maintain close. Kabani now has a possible drafting opportunity with him being third in line through the first straight. With him being the third in line, he's going to get the best draft he possibly can. It doesn't look like it's going to materialize here, but it may materialize on the second straight.
And this is so cool. We're seeing speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour leading into this Daytona chicane. That is impressive. On a road car like this, you don't expect it, and then suddenly you just see the speed climbing and climbing and climbing over 200, up to 204 miles per hour before Kabani got on the brakes. As Jake Sperry put it in the European coverage, over 300 clicks, so over 300 kilometers per hour. That is screaming down these straightaways, and here we go, back up over 200. There you see the lift from Gabani right at 200 just about, as these guys dance around, look for a place to run into the Michelin chicane, and this is an opportunity now for Gabani. Hall is a little bit out of his ordinary. He kind of got off sequence there in the moves. This gets them side by side. This could be all Gabani needs to make this pass out of the Mulsanne corner.
What I was saying earlier, the the chicane, excuse me. It's very, very, very important to get through those corners just because of that reason right there. If one person wiggles just a little bit, the straightaway is going to be the great equalizer in order to making a move or not. He kind of stepped out of his comfort zone trying to make a pass, didn't work, and ultimately lost a position because of it. So you really have to be on point when going through the chicanes. Kabani right on the bumper, going to be looking to make a move coming into Indy. He's going to be on the outside, though. This is going to be, well, excuse me, I was on the wrong part of the track. Now we're going to come through the curve. Looks like he backed out. Kabani takes the lead of this little group. Big braking zone. He might be able to scoot away here.
So Kabani takes over 8th position from Ryan Steele. David K. Hall now into the 10th spot. These 4 Cadillacs, that's a problem. Hall turned around, and that's a big clobbering from Robert Covey, who had nowhere to go.
It's just a terrible situation. Just a big checkup coming into the corner like that, just because you're carrying a little bit more speed than you're used to, upsets the car a little bit. That's one of the personality traits for the Cadillac usually, is it doesn't really like a lot of heavy braking, especially when the car is offset. Crab walking down the straight, that's gonna be a quick repair for him.
Yeah, very likely going to be a fast repair. I doubt he opts to take the optional repairs on this number 10 Cadillac. But here's the replay. He just got him a little bit deep and got in the back of Ryan Steele, checked up pretty hard, and it seemed like, we'll watch the in-car footage here in just a second, but it seemed like he realized pretty quick his mistake was made and tried to back out of it, right? We'll slow it down. He's late to the brakes, closes in pretty quickly, And right out here, it's like he stabs the brakes and throws the car into a four-wheel slide and then gets clobbered from behind. I mean, there's nowhere Covey could have gone.
No, Covey, I mean, none of them were really in the wrong. Covey there was nowhere for him to go. The car slide, and he was going to correct it should there have been nobody behind him, but just a terrible situation to be in, really, for both drivers. I mean, you're so closely packed up into a very, very hard-braking corner. You've got to react fast, and, I mean, you're really not expecting it right there at the end. Covey did a good job of getting on the brakes to try his best to not get into him. It's just terrible timing for really everything to unfold right there.
Really, the only good news from that situation is it seems Covey's damage is minimal at best. A little bit of left front damage maybe to that Cadillac, but overall not much for how bad it could have been. At first, the nose completely popped off of that race car. It then reappeared as the damage kind of re-rendered. So all things considered, I think he'll be losing a little bit of time down the straightaways, but it's not nearly as bad as having to come in for a complete fast fix. He can keep on moving at this point in time while David Hall is in the pit lane and should be leaving here in just one moment to rejoin the field. He'll be in the middle of the LMP2 field, which is going to be super challenging this early. Usually at Le Mans, there's a little more time for these guys to get settled in before they have to deal with lap traffic. Here, Hall is going to be on cold tires and rejoining in the middle of the LMP2s at the back end of the field, actually. This is going to be challenging for him to get back through.
I guess the only shining light in this is that he's going to be on fresher tires, freshest of everybody, so he's going to be able to be a bit more aggressive on braking, maybe a bit more aggressive on throttle. Obviously not on cold tires right now. You want those tires to warm up, especially in the GTP class. The car is very, very unsettled on cold tires, on new tires. So I guess that's really the redeeming light right now, is that he's going to be able to kind of push the car, not really have any kind of draft or any kind of air to mess with. As soon as he starts getting into the LMP2s, he will, but he will be on new tires, and he should be obviously the faster car, so he should be able to blow by him. But here we are in Travis Worling, still a decent amount behind the leader, maybe about a second or two, about a second or two, but I mean, this is kind of the place you want to be, kind of settled in, understand what your car needs, understand what the car has. There it is on the ticker. There's 7/10 behind the leader. So right now he's kind of fading in and out of the draft. So I bet he has a decent understanding of what the car needs and does, both clean air and draft. So not a bad position to be in. Obviously you want to be in first, but we still got 2 hours of racing, so you don't need to be in first as of right now.
And we did miss a lead change here in LMP2. Glad we're picking up on it now, though. Christian Challenger back ahead of Travis Worling. Not exactly sure when that pass took place, but sometime within the last 10 minutes or so, those two swapped hands and gave Challenger the lead back. Austin Peterson and Robert Nash a little ways behind these guys. Nash in third, Peterson in fourth. Northway completing your LMP2 top 5 at this point in time. There has been a decent fight behind these guys as they go past one GT3 car that is likely... I had to guess, maybe is it Wayne Hutchison? Yes, it is. So it's Wayne Hutchison in the 17 they're passing, but this is going to be Timothy Klaus and Brian Barnes in the middle, more or less, of the LMP2 field. Barnes is back here in the blue and yellow number 4. We're on board with it now. He is chasing Timothy Klaus for the 9th position and Kevin Santana for the 8th spot. These guys are kind of riding around. They were close and swapping paint not long ago, but have split up since then as we've got a battle for the race lead overall, Zach. They got close, but I think we're going to see more fuel saving here out of the Cadillac of Nathan Dowd versus Ross Banfield. And, you know, when we cover the North American Racing League here on Pit Stop TV, we get a lot of this. A lot of second place drafting up to the race leader, but not wanting to pass, because he wants to sit in that wake, sit in that draft, and save fuel on the straightaways, especially corner entry. And it could be a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour before Dowd feels like passing.
And see, I think you bring up a really good point. We haven't really talked about it until this point. Is the fuel saving option? Is the pit stop idea of when the window opens, when everybody needs to get in? Obviously, when when they need to go in for pits. Obviously, second place is going to have a little bit more fuel. He's going to be able to either run longer or take less time in pit stops trying to fill up on his car. So you make a really good point. Leader's going to be punching the biggest hole in the air. Obviously, he's going to be the quickest and up front, but second and third place can ride behind, just kind of save some fuel.
Oh, I've just noticed Vincent Laherbier has just pitted. He is on his out lap. I was wondering why when I went to the third place hypercar, it was 21 seconds back in Sebastian Jackson. Vincent Lahervier has already pitted, and I wonder if this is running the race in reverse, Zach. One thing that one of our mentors always preached into our head, David Levine, in endurance racing, is running the race in reverse. At some point, there will be an opportunity where you can figure out the amount of runs you have to do to the end, and you want to make sure that you are running out of fuel maybe a lap after the checkered flag, thereabouts, right? You want to run out after the checkers, but you want to time it out right so that you're on low fuel, able to run those fast laps. And so you might take a short pit at some point a little bit earlier. And I wonder if Vincent has done that here, if he's taken his short pit and come in for that service. There's a ton of gravel outside of the beach of Mulsanne. I wonder if he's taken that short pit to run this race in reverse potentially and time it out right for the end of the race.
Obviously, there's a reason that he preached that to us, because this is most likely, now I don't want to say it's a race winning strategy just yet, just because we don't know how the race is going to unfold and such, but I mean, I don't hate that at all. I really don't, just because of the fact of now he's going to be able to run clean laps. He doesn't really have a lot of people around him where he's, having to give up a lot or do a lot to try to get around them. He's able to run his car, his pace, what he needs, and it could very well work out for him, as we got ourselves a side-by-side coming to Indy through the first little bend. Going to be able to clear him coming to the second bend before Indy.
That was Warling going past Christian Challoner, and I wonder if Christian's starting to do the same thing here, starting to save fuel. Or maybe if he certainly doesn't have damage, right? That car looks fine aesthetically, but he was wobbling a little bit down the straightaway. I couldn't quite tell. You see Robert Nash in the background. Challoner has given up over a second to Warling. He's already 1.3 seconds back of the 90 car.
Yeah, I was going to say, he fell off rather quickly when he got past there. Usually you just duck in behind, try to draft back up to try to minimize any kind of damage, but he dropped back very quickly there. I'm kind of want to see how, if third place is able to catch him, if he's able to fall back. It doesn't really look like he's got any damage from this nose shot, so I wonder if it's just maybe felt uncomfortable with something, maybe just, or it could be some real life scenarios where somebody walked in, an animal jumped up on him, and he had to discard of said animal rather quickly. It's just, maybe it was a smart move for him just to pull off, make sure he doesn't hurt his or anybody else's race, but he did fall off rather quickly there, but it seems the pace is brought back to him.
The 2025 Speedway 500 winner continues on here in second place in class. Down in GT3, things are relatively calm, although this field has just been lapped for the first time by the hypercar field. So Tyler Campbell now squarely one lap down to the overall race leader, but leading in GT3 competition. He's got about 2.9 seconds back to Austin O'Neill in that Fusion Acura. And then Christian Abate further back in his McLaren. And it is Ford, Acura, McLaren, and then it looks like McLaren in fifth. And that's what I'm talking about, Zach, going back to that conversation of the overwhelming car choice being McLaren for this event. It has been that way for some time in GT3. We covered the North American Racing League this winter and spring, and overwhelmingly it seemed the field went for Acuras, but the best of the field was in a McLaren. And I think something is to be said for those two cars being, I think, the most recent additions to this GT3 category. I'm not saying new cars are buffed and need to be nerfed, but they definitely seem to be pretty quick until they get figured out by other cars.
Well, and I think too, something new comes out, everybody wants to jump on the new thing. Everybody wants to understand what that car does, and that might just be what's been going on. Everybody wants to understand what the Acura, how it feels, how it drives, if it best suits them. Again, each car has their own personality. Each car has their own kind of thing to look out for when it comes to the personality of the car. So maybe the drivers are just kind of testing it out, see if they like it or dislike it. Obviously, the Ford up front, he's been doing one heck of a job, Campbell has. So as we see a position change here in the LMP2 class, Brian McGreevy going by.
That's McGreevy on Banfield. Andy Banfield, the other Banfield here in the race. Andy drops back to the 12th position in class now is Ross Banfield. What about timing there? Ross will go fastest at a 3:26.7, and that, again, is our race leader doing all of that. So he's got no draft help, at least not draft help within the same class. He might have a break or two from a lap car, but that is not going to tow him along the straightaways. That might just help him for a couple of hundredths here or there. That is an impressive lap then from Ross Banfield. And, you know, admittedly, I'll admit here, I've got some learning to do before the 24 on exactly how this hybrid system works, Zach, but what I do know from listening in to the international and European splits, about this time in the run, you want to switch from a balanced deploy method to build. That's what I learned from watching those broadcasts. There's a lot to be learned from guys who do know more about the hybrid system. So touching on that for just a moment, these guys only get, I think it's 4 changes per lap to the build mode, whether you want to go balanced, attack, build, what have you. There's a few different options for these guys depending on what car they're in. And there was conversation about switching from balanced over to build. I'm curious, I know you've run some hypercar races, you've run a bit in the category. What have you learned on this hybrid system that is ever evolving here on iRacing?
Well, you just said it yourself. It's ever evolving. There's constantly so much strategy that goes into it. The build, the balance, the qualifying, just everything that goes into it. And it really changes up how your car drives on the fly. You really got to be on top of your game, really, when you switch it over to both build and balance, just because the car may be a little bit slower in some aspects, trying to build up, like you said, trying to build up that energy inside the car. Maybe it bursts, or not bursts, but you do get a little bit of a speed burst should you be in a high speed area. So it changes up a little bit on how you drive. Maybe you could be a little bit more aggressive in braking to help build up that energy just a little bit more. But it does come down to a challenge of the drivers, when to deploy it, when to not, when to put it into build, and again, when to not. As we've been seeing Banfield put down some impressive lap times, especially when we're 7-8 laps into the race. So it's very impressive to see him continue running that time, especially if we're starting to switch over into build mode, which again, it's probably going to slow down the cars a little bit more. It's going to be taking a lot more of energy under braking, so you're probably going to have to be a bit more conscious in your braking zones. But it's still very impressive to see these laps be put down, considering the fact of that might be the strategy that might be implemented into a 2.4, especially maybe learning a little bit, jotting down a little bit more into their notebook for the 24.
On board, we stay with Zeke Kabani running in the 7th position. He was pretty close to Tom Dreiling when we initially took this camera. He has fallen back now to about 1.4 seconds behind car number 82, Tom Dreiling. And they just kind of ride around at this point. The midfield of GTP Hypercar right now is pretty spread out. This was really the closest battle in the middle of the field. There is a closer little battle between Vincent Leherbier and Robert Covey. And let's not forget, Zach, as we jump on board here with Leherbier in a Porsche, let's not forget that Covey's got that damage from this upcoming corner a few laps ago.
This is true, and a little bit of a lockup there, and just a little bit. It's going to have Leherbier come up on his back bumper, maybe have a little bit of draft coming into the few corners here. I forget, this is the Porsche corners coming up, if I am correct. But, I mean, right now we're getting to the point where the tires are going to start wearing, and it's just going to start showing what the drivers have done over the course of this race. 7-8 laps in, this is a very large track with a bunch of intricate corners and a bunch of corners to hit perfectly. So we see Leherbier here close in on him a little bit as we look through some of the GT3 stuff. Close in on him through the corners. He might have himself a chance coming up here in a little bit into a very, very tight last few corners here. So if he stays close, he might have himself a chance, but right now it looks like he's just kind of biding his time.
Well, let's not forget, Leherbier is on the alternate strategy. He's already taken his first stop of the race for at least 23 seconds of service. Whether or not that was 4 tires and a full tank of fuel, it's hard to say with complete certainty, but I would imagine that is likely at least a full fuel stop, maybe not tires on that 546, but a full fuel stop I would suspect for him. and that puts him out trying to get back through this field. So he's trying to pass Covey and get by as quickly as possible. That's why he's flashing him right now. He wants to go by. He's on an alternate strategy. He knows he's faster, and this is just holding him up and hurting that strategy more and more the longer he sits behind car 72.
I couldn't agree more, but right here, he should have himself a decent draft. No one in front of the car in front of him. Well, as we come up on another GT3 car, and that's one thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, is that the fact that they're coming through the GT3 class. We saw LaHerbier have to take an outside corner. He might kind of force a 3-wide coming into the chicane here. He will, and he probably will have the position through the corners, having the inside line, the preferred line coming through this first little bit. He will. So the only thing with this, though, is that now the car behind him might have draft. He was able to scoot away through the chicane, and he's going to have draft from the GT3 leader here. But that's the only thing with these cars as well. A pass is never really completed until you're able to scoot out about a second and a half, where draft really doesn't come into play.
That's that delta we talk so much about across different cars, whether it's stock car racing at Daytona, we've got prototypes and GT cars here at Le Mans. It doesn't matter the car or the track. Here in iRacing, it's about a second that we're kind of regarding as the draft delta that you want to be outside of to get away from your competitors. We've got a pit stop on screen. Kevin Santana in the 666 machine comes in for service, and he is not alone. This could be signaling the beginning of pit stops for the LMP2 category. I don't recall the exact minute kind of mark that we're looking for LMP2, but I can try and research it quickly. Lynn Kinchlow puts together a nice broadcast doc for us here with the Major Series. So I'll look into that a little more. This could be kicking off the pit stops for LMP2.
You see them going up on their jack, so they're obviously changing tires. They feel like right now is the best time to do so. But the fact that we've had multiple LMP2s come in, I kind of agree. Everybody might be either feeling the pressure to try to come in, to try to get, as Nathan Dowd goes fastest for the GTP class. They might be feeling something that nobody else is really feeling right now, or like you said earlier, this could be about the time for the LMP2s, and this could be smart, kind of undercutting everybody else, have them come in, take their tires while they're out here on freshies, especially on this very, very long, very technical track. You want to be on fresh tires. That way you make up an incredible amount of time as the race goes on.
The big trouble with trying to strategize this race, and the trouble we'll see with strategizing the 24 in a few weeks, will be full course yellows. We expect exactly one caution is expected in this race, and I think they have it out technically where they don't have to throw one. I think it's technically calculated by incidents at once, basically would be the trigger for the caution, but it will happen at one random spot in this race, and I do believe it's a little more heavily weighted on actual incidents at a given point in time in the Majors 24, so it's a little more responsive in the Majors 24, I believe, and a little more random here today. But these drivers know they've got that full course yellow to expect, and they know that A, they can pit during that full course yellow, and B, they can fuel save during that full course yellow, Zach. So that would open up a Pandora's box of fuel scenarios and situations where anything can happen and anything can and will change during that full course yellow period. We've just got to sit here and wait on it, really. You can only do so much, though, right? You have to still run your race as if it's going to work in your favor, because you never know when that caution's going to come out, and if you live your life in fear and you run your race in fear of when that yellow is going to happen, you're going to back yourself into a pretty less than ideal corner.
No, I agree with you. And that full course caution, like you were saying, throws in such a monkey wrench into what drivers need to do. We saw LaHerbier come in, try to race the race backwards, but again, we're kind of waiting on that full course caution, and any pit strategy could really be hurt by it. They could go all the way, as we see a large amount of cars come in, both GT3, LMP2, maybe even some GTP, but I mean, the full course caution is going to throw in such a monkey wrench because, like you said, we don't know when to expect it. We don't know what's going to happen when it does. It could come out to hurt some of the undercutting strategies. It could come out to hurt some of the strategies trying to go long. So, like you said, there's really no reason to try to run your race any differently, trying to base it off of said caution. You've got to run your race as best as you can to your abilities and stick to the strategies that you have and hope the caution falls your way.
And this is just about the entire LMP2 field. So we saw that early stop out of Santana and Barnes. They might have mismanaged fuel to get to this point, but everybody else comes in here on what is lap 10 onto 11 for the overall leaders. So about 9 to 10 for these guys. This is a mad dash to the pit lane. Warlinger now runs back out of the pit lane ahead of Challoner, Nash, Peterson, and Northway, your top 5, all leaving their pit stalls. Homan, Klaus, Schmidt, everybody else still entering their boxes. And this gives us a good opportunity as well to check in with one driver in particular that we learned a lot about in the World 600 a couple of rounds ago, Zach. Bob Beltrami, you're not ready for this. This is my favorite driver in the Americas region for one reason. If we can get a good look, and it might take a second to get to the right camera, because the blimp is not super useful here on the front stretch because of all the buildings in the way. But maybe you can do it on your side and use one of the cameras there. Bob Beltrami, here we go. Look at the hood of the car right in front of the cockpit. Beltrami Salami. I'm telling you, this is my favorite car and driver. He takes the cake with his paint schemes, his sponsorship. Beltrami Salami. There's nothing better.
And it really is a quite... I kind of do like the paint on it. Very simple, red, green, white. But, I mean, the white separates the red and the green. Beltrami Salami is arguably a fantastic... that's fantastic. I love to hear that.
Well, so in the World 600 back in April, I wasn't exactly sure how to pronounce his name. Beltrami works. I think Beltrami, I think is what I was going for then. But then I realized it says salami underneath, and I figured there could only be one way to pronounce Beltrami if salami is right underneath it. They have to rhyme at that point. So Beltrami Salami, this is peak cinema, if you will. I've never seen a driver basically give us the key to pronouncing their name on their car like that. So not only is it my favorite paint scheme in the race for that reason, but it's also one of the most useful to us as broadcasters because it tells us how to pronounce his last name if we're unsure. So Bob, thank you for that. Meanwhile, pit stop here for Dino Vela. He's not alone. Jason Wallet into the pit lane in his Cadillac. I think that was a Ferrari there for Dino. One of the only Ferraris in the field as our hypercars now make their way to the pit lane.
And one of the things that's going to be interesting to see here is if this is actually starting to open up the pit window for the GTPs. I kind of want to see where Le Herbier kind of cycles out when everything does happen here. Big checkup coming into Indy. You don't really want that, especially in the GTP class.
Well, these are our P2 leaders right ahead of them.
Right ahead of them, exactly. Man, especially coming through there, a little bit of a slide there. A little bit of a slide from second place. He's going to be able to use the draft from the LMP2 to kind of rectify that slide, but he's going to lose a little bit of a time just because of trying to get around slower cars, especially in a very, very tight part of the racetrack where we saw incidents happen earlier.
That was really close and narrow at a couple of spots, but props to the top two in each of our prototype classes, Hypercar and LMP2, because that did not have to go as orderly as that went. They easily could have made that more of a headache on one another, but I think each driver facilitated that as nicely as they could have. So props to Ross Banfield, Nathan Dowd, Travis Warling, and Christian Challoner for making that go by about as easily as they could have. And now, right to the pit lane for Banfield and Dowd. They're both coming in here. This is completing lap 12. This also gives us a great read, Zach, on about how long they can go, not only here today, but also the 24 in 3 weeks, about 12 laps.
I think we saw it right there. Pit road doesn't really start until about halfway through the access road, so you could actually make up a lot of time on the leader. As we saw there, the second place was able to close in really quickly on leader Banfield there coming into pit road just because of how wild the access road is. A little bit slow into his stall, about the same time on jackup. But again, I do kind of want to see where Le Herbier kind of cycles out because of his differing strategy from these two. But the fact that, like you said, now that we kind of know what the baseline is as per laps for each and every single car, now we kind of know what to look out for as the race comes to a close here, or it starts to come to a close, excuse me.
Daniel Johnson comes in here on this lap as well as Sebastian Jackson and Zeke Kabani. I expect every hypercar to hit the pit lane this time around other than Vincent Leherbier, who will cycle back out into some top 3 position, I assume. I would guess 3rd place, but maybe 1st or 2nd, depending on where these guys rejoin. As Banfield, look at this, Banfield and Dowd squeeze one another off the pit lane, but Banfield has the leg up and gets out in the way. Now, where is Leherbier? He is just passing the front stretch now. So he has lost a ton of time as a result of this. He's about 7 seconds behind Banfield and Dowd, and maybe this is a way for him to test something for the 24, but if you're going for points here in the Americas region, this is a big blow.
Well, the time right now is going to start to close in a little bit more just because Leherbier is on, worn tires, but he is on warm tires where the other 2 are on colder tires, sir. So I'm kind of curious to see if he's able to close in any more, but a 7-second difference, like you said, when he was with the leaders is an astounding amount of time. Maybe it was just slower cars getting in his way. Maybe it was just the fact that he didn't have anybody to draft with. There's so many differences as you see the leaders right in front of him. So he still might be able to close in a decent amount of time here. We're just going to have to see. The only downfall is as soon as the leaders' tires come up to temp, as soon as they're able to get confident in their car once again, he's going to be at a major disadvantage just because of said tire wear.
It's so tricky warming tires here at Le Mans because it takes a couple of laps because of how long the straights are. As soon as you build temp out of the pit lane and build that little bit of temp going through the S's and the Dunlop chicane and whatnot, once you exit Tetra Rouge, it's a straightaway. Aside from those 2, the Daytona and Michelin chicanes, the Michelin chicane here now, and these 2 chicanes do not build much temperature compared to other corners in the racetrack. This is minimal temperature building here in these 2 chicanes. So then you're back on a straightaway all the way to the Mulsanne corner, which builds a little bit of temp, but then it's back on straightaway all the way down to Indianapolis and Arnage, and then you have the Porsche curves and the Corvette curves and the Ford chicanes to finally build a little bit of temperature. And then guess what, Zach? Once you exit Tetra Rouge, that next lap around, you're back to being on cold track and cooling those tires back down. It takes a couple of laps to get these tires fully up to temperature, because of how long the straights are and because of how long you're simply riding in a straight line.
And it's really deceiving too, because like you were saying, being on those straightaways, the tire's not going to build up a bunch of temps. So you could be going down the Mulsanne straights, get through everything, get through Indy right here and start thinking, oh, my tires are up to temp, or I could start pushing the car a little bit more. And that's when it comes back to bite you. That's when it haunts you, just because the tires are not actually up to temp. So the first 2 leaders here, Banfield and Dowd, really got to be careful on what they do. As you can see, Dowd's lost a little bit more time to Banfield just because he might be going through what we were talking about. Maybe just the car's not feeling all too well right now on cool tires, whereas Leherbier is able to get through the corners as quickly as he possibly can just because his tires are his tires are stuck. They're warm. He's able to get through them a lot quicker. So
this is not going to help him though.
It's really not, and that's one of the most frustrating parts of it too, being the faster car, is catching a car in such an unsatisfactory spot. But the one thing that I try to keep my mind on is if the racing gods are going to do that at you now, they're gonna gift you sometime down the road. So it might be a frustrating time now, especially for Leherbier being on older tires, but he'll get his pay somewhere down the road.
And as they come across the line here, this graphic will update from showing Dreiling that he was tracking to now showing 3 seconds between Leherbier and Dowd. This is for second position. Leherbier 3 seconds back, so it's not nearly as damning as the 7 seconds that we saw previously, but it is still a large gap between Dowd and Leherbier. 3 seconds, well, I guess we can put it into perspective. 3 seconds is nothing in the 24. That's easily made up over the course of a run. But 3 seconds here where you only have an hour and 38 minutes to go, that is a pretty big hill to overcome for Leherbier, especially when these guys are on full attack mode pretty much this entire race. There isn't much saving unless you get behind somebody like we saw earlier with Dowd saving some fuel. There's not much pace saving here, Zach. These guys are full bore, 2.4 hours, go get all you can on the racetrack. And even here, Leherbier is gaining a little bit, but it's going to run out at some point. It's going to plateau. He's not going to get that much closer.
As long as the plateau happens when he's able to be in their draft. If the plateau happens and he's not, then it's going to be a huge issue. But if he's able to at least get a little bit of air on his nose, a little bit of draft to help him get up to the leaders, then I think he's going to be fine. But as all things in life, if you do something that has a bunch of pluses, there's going to be some minuses to it. We were talking about it earlier, the short pitting to try to work it backwards, where I still think it's a really good strategy. He's already kind of made his bed as far as the race goes. He can't really jump off of that now, because if he does, he's going to put himself even further behind. So, like we were talking about, this is a really good way for him to understand and know what to look for in the strategy. But if the strategy doesn't pan out, he's kind of at the mercy of what the leaders do, as we see Covey come in for his pit stop now.
This is a lap after, and I believe this is his second trip down the pit lane in as many laps. So this is a problem for Robert Covey. It might be a fruitless effort, but we'll try to get a replay as to what might have happened here to Covey. He takes a quick fast repair. I wonder if he might have hit the wall somewhere. He's already got some damage here into Indianapolis. Let's go back through that most recent lap and see if we can find something, and I've just found it. So watch this. He's got a fresh car or fresh bumper, no damage on this 72 at this moment, but watch along. He's just ahead there of David Hall, I believe, and Robert Covey exits here out of the Michelin chicane. Watch this.
No.
And I don't run much prototype racing, really any racing these days, but I did take a couple of laps earlier today in this exact car at this racetrack, just preparing myself a little bit for what we'd see on the racetrack today. A couple of recon laps, if you will. And the way they have updated, the way iRacing has updated the hybrid and tire systems in general, Zach, you're okay for a while putting the power down about 75%. Once you go into that final 25% of throttle and the hybrid kicks in low gear, it spins those rear tires very easily, especially on cold tires. That is so easy to do. That is so easy to do.
It really is, especially the fact of coming out of the Michelin chicane there, he was kind of de-wedged the car by being on top of the rumble strips. They are not even with the track, so as soon as he came off of that, looks like the tires just slipped a little bit. I mean, for what it's worth, even with the wreck and everything happening, he did kind of minimize the damage from it. We did see him get into the wall, but he didn't come spinning back down the track. He didn't loop the car. He kept it relatively straight even after hitting the wall. You see that little bit of wedge there trying to get back into the throttle. I mean, he held brakes, the car straightened itself back out, he stayed out of the racing line to minimize any kind of damage. So sure, that mistake did cost him a lot of time, maybe especially the time back down pit road. He was able to minimize the mistake of it, and I think right now with an hour 30 still left, I think he's going to be able to at least have a chance to pick up the positions or the time that he lost through that little bit of a mess up.
You see, he's now behind those McLaren teammates of Christian Abate and Brenton Foster. They continue to run third and fourth down in GT3, so as Covey pulls away, we can take a moment to focus on these two teammates. You got to wonder, at what point do these guys have to decide who finishes third and who finishes fourth? Because they have been in the exact same spot since the drop of the green flag. They have lost touch with Campbell and O'Neill, and there goes Covey. Oh, no. I think the car's okay, but that's another slide on those tires, and that is not what he needs.
No, it's really, really not. Now the rears are probably going to be a little mad at him for sliding the car. Now the car's probably going to be a little upset. And like we were talking about earlier, it's really hard to both warm up the tires, but it's also going to be really hard to calm down the tires, especially after a slide like that. So now he's just got to really, really be careful. You see there, he went a little wide through the first Porsche corner there. So now he's just got to really be careful, especially being stuck behind these two now. He's got to be really careful on throttle and braking.
And I always felt like, in my time racing prototypes and going past GT cars, if I made a mistake, if I took an off track or had a slide or a lockup or whatever, if I made that mistake and lost that spot back to them, I'm going to be as nice as I can to them and ride behind them as long as I have to pass on a straightaway. If I make that mistake and they pass me back, they have earned that. I messed up. I'm going to wait until a straightaway is. Now you see those leaders come in for GT3. Tyler Campbell is in the 0-1. He's on jacks. There's Austin O'Neill pulling pulling into his box. Christian Abate and Brenton Foster now come in. This is just shy, actually, Zach, of the 1 hour mark that we expect for GT vehicles. Usually, it's about 1 hour to a stint. These guys, of course, have some liberties they can take. They don't have to run that far because otherwise they will have a 20-ish minute stint at the end. So they can short pit a little bit here, take it easier on those tires, and do kind of what we see in NASCAR racing almost, where you try to break things up relatively equally to give the same amount of load, same amount of wear to each set of tires, and try to always be running good lap times.
Well, I agree with you. But as we see here, it seems like every single GT3 has come down now to service their cars. So I wonder if all of them kind of had the same idea of trying to run it as full as or as long as they can to try to maybe leapfrog one another, maybe leapfrog somebody who took a differing strategy. As we see the two teammates here side by side coming down pit road, so everyone's going to give it up to the other, especially coming out of this narrow pit road. But as we see right here for GT3s, not really a lot of takers as far as a differing strategy. It seemed like everybody is on the same one, so now it's kind of a rung what you brung. As we've seen LMP2 there have to cut the course, miss the corner. They're going to have to serve a slowdown, but right now it's just rung what you brung as best as you can. That way you can try to run out the strategy as best as you can.
And this shows kind of what I was talking about. You've got Jackson Wade still on the racetrack. Actually, he just pitted 3 laps ago, so he pitted much earlier. He's going to catch up to this field. Here we go. Cheney has pitted. Interesting. So they definitely could have gone longer, but I think once they saw the leader come in, everybody decided, let's go ahead and do what the leader has done and run a little bit less to a stint, if you will, and pit a little bit sooner, get back on the racetrack a little bit faster. There's Peter Cheney. We can go up, and actually Austin O'Neill has lost second place. His pit stop was about the same time. Zach, I wonder, have we just missed a cold tire mistake for Austin O'Neill?
I think we did. I had iRacing up on a separate screen. I was looking at the the GTP leaders. And I think I saw him spinning out of this corner right here, right in front of the leaders. Yep,
oh,
right
wow.
here. Just the D wedge of the car coming off that rumble strip. Cold tires, not a good combination. Especially, this is a terrible place to be parked too. You can't really see much. Cars coming around the corners, can't really see much. So he did a really good job of getting that car straight, but just a terrible, terrible mistake to have while running P2.
So watch O'Neill here, our top Acura in this event from Fusion Gold Americas. There he goes out of the Dunlop Bridge. This is down through the Dunlop S's, and on the exit thereof, he tags the curb on the right side as Ross Banfield tries to go by on the left. Banfield's giving a lot of room. O'Neill gives him a lot of room, but that curbing got that car upset on cold tires, and you mentioned this is a terrible place to be broadside to the racetrack during green flag or yellow flag conditions because everybody's flying past you as quickly as they can. This is a high momentum area of the racetrack. You've got to stay on it, high cadence, and it's easy to not see a car around the bend and plow into them if they're broadside like that. So props to everybody getting by Austin O'Neill. Props to O'Neill especially for keeping that car in one place while the traffic went by, because it's also very easy to not do that, back up too soon, and get in the way.
And that's one of the most frustrating things, especially for O'Neill right there, is, you're trying to give way to a faster car. You're on colder tires, a little bit of a wiggle there coming through the kink coming into Indy, but the faster cars are behind you, you're on cold tires, you're trying to give way to them, and then your car spins because you're trying to give way to them. And that's one of the most frustrating parts about being the slowest car, is having cars on top of you all while you're trying to get your car back up to speed, back up to temp. So like you said, being broadside in that part of the corner, it's real easy to be frustrated, back up the entirety of the track to try to get your car pointed straight away. He kept his wits about him, was able to get the car straight without taking any kind of damage. So right now, middle of the race mistake I think is still okay, especially of the fact that we still have yet to hit our one full course caution. So he's not really in the worst spot. Now he's just got to minimize mistakes, make sure he doesn't do it again, make sure he gets the car up to temp and try to run down as best as he can the cars in front of him.
And there's a little bit of language to get into with the one full course yellow that we expect, because it is expected to get one full course yellow, but I believe the verbiage from the series, Zach, has been up to 1 full course yellow, meaning that opens the door for there to be no full course yellow. I wonder, because this is the cleanest race I've seen between watching what happened in the international time slot on SimSpeed, the European time slot on GSRC, and now this America's time slot here on Pitstop TV. This has been the cleanest time slot I have seen between those 3 top splits. I wonder if this race goes by without any major incidents. Do we not get a full course yellow? Do we not get that practice run of that procedure for the Majors 24?
And that's kind of one of the things that you were talking about earlier, Andrew, is the fact of not being scared of that full course yellow. We might not even get it, like you were saying. So there's no point in trying to, maybe back off, save stuff because of that full course yellow. You've got to run your strategy. You've got to run as much as you can in case that full course yellow does not come out. So I think you make up a good point, but another point to bring up, should we get that full course yellow, is like you said, that runs off, 33 minutes of it? We're about an hour and hour 30, maybe a little less than with the race left. So should we get that full course yellow, that's going to waste a lot of race time, a lot of time for these guys to either make up a position. Sure, it's going to restack everybody, but that takes away a lot of race time, and it could mess up any strategies. But again, we could be talking in circles. Like you said, there's a possibility that it doesn't come out. So for these drivers, I think, like you were saying, there's no point in trying to be scared of something that might not come out. Run the race to your best abilities. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Well, Zach, a couple of notes for us to hit on during this mid-portion of the broadcast. I've not really noticed anything that would qualify for my personal lucky performance, lucky break of the day. Haven't really seen much, although this little string of cars could give us something with Daniel Johnson, Sebastian Jackson, and Zeke Cabani following a number 4 LMP2. That's Brian Barnes in the number 4, following him through the Michelin chicane. This battle could give us one here soon, but I haven't really seen anything super particularly lucky out on the racetrack yet today, so we will keep an eye out for today's lucky performance, lucky break of the day, but nothing just yet. And if we want to talk about our other kind of segment, if you will, the North American Racing League Driver of the Day conversation, not much happening there yet. Of course, we will reconvene on that while keeping drivers in mind, with about a half hour to go in this race to give everybody a little bit of time to vote on driver of the day. Max Verstappen won it in Formula 1. Who can win it here in the Major Series, as that's a bit of a move over from Sebastian Jackson right in front of Zeke Cabani as they pass Austin O'Neill. That was really hairy through the entry to Indianapolis, but they figure it out. And yeah, there's the flash right on cue from Cabani. I don't think he liked that whatsoever, but that's racing for you.
Racing for, and I think Cabani did the smarter thing of letting the car in front of him get down because of the slower car. Sure, you want to pass him, sure, you're the faster car as of right now, and I think he's just letting the car in front of him know, hey, I gave you a little bit of a break there. Let's make sure that doesn't happen again, especially when it starts to come down to it. I think Cabani knows that he's got a car that can pass, maybe contend for that position, but I think both of them were really smart when it came to that aspect. But here we go, catching the 2 teammates again, coming around. Just a terrible part of the track to be catching these 2, but Cabani could possibly capitalize on slower cars. As of right now, it doesn't look like it.
And it makes it that much more difficult to get by those 2. They're not doing anything wrong running in tandem like that, but it makes it that much harder for the prototypes that catch them to pass, because they are nose to tail. It's not just one chicane to get around, one rolling roadblock. It's 2 rolling roadblocks to try and pass at once. And in those high-speed corners of the Porsche and Corvette curves, it's not exactly easy. It takes a lot of finesse to do that at that point of the racetrack. So props here to the hypercar classes. Cabani makes a dive here at the Dunlop chicane. What a move out of Cabani, but it did not stick.
I think he's getting tired of running behind. He certainly feels like he's got the car to pass, but obviously not right now. But with him being this close getting into the Mulsanne straights, he's going to have himself an opportunity. Should he remain this close, looks like we're getting into the straight now. He's not going to be close enough, was able to pull away a bit, but Cabani with the big move, feeling like he had the car to stick. Now he knows that the car may not be able to stick, carrying that much speed going into the first few corners there.
We'll jump on board here with Zeke Cabani and track the time up to Sebastian Jackson. Our race leaders in Hypercar and LMP2 are both still relatively close. It's two tandems at the top of each one of those classes, but down in GT3, it is an 18-second gap as Cavani goes wide on exit of the Daytona chicane. That's going to take Cavani out of draft range. Let's go up then to our race leaders of Dowd and Banfield as we touch on GT3. 18 seconds between Tyler Campbell leading that class and Christian Abate in second place in GT3. So a lot of time between them. Also worth noting, just to tie one more knot up in that full course yellow conversation, Zach, it has been stated there will not be a full course yellow in the final 30 minutes of this race. So if we don't have one by 30 minutes to go, so in the next 50 minutes, we know we won't get one at all.
And I think that's going to put a lot of drivers' minds to ease too, knowing that if we get inside the final 30 minutes, they won't have that caution. As we look at David Hall here coming through pit road. Maybe a differing strategy, maybe some damage. No, the lane time was quite a while. Maybe box time was quite a while as well. So that was a full-fledged stop for him. So maybe trying to throw some strategy into it. Maybe he knows that he might not have a race-winning car. Maybe a position type of strategy there. But these two have been on top of each other all day. I mean, there's really been no separation for these two. We saw LaHerbier try his strategy. Ooh, a bit over the bump there.
Here we go.
A pass for the lead.
Pass for the race lead for the first time today. Nathan Dowd makes his move on Ross Banfield just over 1 hour into this Le Mans 2.4. That is a very important pass right at the start-finish line in front of all those virtual fans. Nathan Dowd takes over here in France. He won the season opening round of the Daytona 2.4. We come here to the Le Mans 2.4. And he's following that race up really nicely. He's got 3 wins already this season in just 5 races, Zach. Of course, one was a class win at Daytona, but it was also the overall victory. Then he won in the Intimidator Challenge at Daytona in the NASCAR 1987 Cup Cars, which is a whole challenge in and of itself. Then he backed that up with a GT3 victory in the GT World Challenge event at Road America for round number 3. 3 wins off rip for driver number 7. He's been winless since March. Of course, Dallas Pataska won in April in the World 600, and Christian Challenger won in May in the Speedway 500. So Dad would like to get back to his winning ways if he can do so here today. Meanwhile, Vincent LaHerbier is hitting the pit lane. So a big time update across your hypercar field. Change for the race lead. LaHerbier back to the pits, and a whole lot more going on throughout the whole 43 car field, as all 43 cars are still running. I want to circle back to other stories, but right now these top 2 are just too close.
Yeah, I mean, Banfield has not let Dowd get away. One of the things that I saw there coming into that final corner when Dowd took the lead is Banfield didn't really have a wiggle coming out of the final 2 corners. He didn't really have a slide, so I'm wondering if maybe he's just using this time maybe to save fuel of his own. We saw Dowd pretty much be behind Banfield that entire time as we come up on a whole host of cars here, I believe. Yeah, LMP2s and the Cadillac GTP.
Those are your LMP2 leaders again.
The LMP2 leaders, and I think right now is the best spot to get, overtaken, obviously on a straightaway, but they got to get through quickly, being behind another GTP that's been a little off pace from the leaders. We're going to get into Indy here any second now, but Banfield didn't really fight. He that position as we got way wide for the LMP2, or excuse me, the GTP. He gave up that position to the leader. Smart move by him, but I'm kind of curious now to see if Banfield's willing to put the fight back to Dowd, or if he's just willing to just kind of sit behind and save some gas.
And that is Drew Neubauer in that GTP, that hypercar that has just let Whirling and now Challenger maybe go by. He moved over on exit and then punched the throttle and went right back to the side of Whirling. So this is going to be a little messy through the Porsche curves. I think Neubauer, oh man, he is way wide there entering the Porsche curves. This is going to hold up our 2 LMP2 leaders. Thankfully, they've got a large gap back to Robert Nash. But I wonder, a couple of things here. Neubauer, clearly a little off pace versus hypercar, and I would be too. but I wonder if maybe he's battling a bad setup, maybe he loaded the wrong one, or if maybe Zach, he's a little newer to this GTP hypercar category and is coming to grips with this race car and this category, this style of racing, because he is just a little off pace. He's been running the back end of GTP the entire race so far, but it is starting to interfere here with the LMP2 battle, and you can do all the testing, all the running, all the practicing you need to do here in the race if you have to. The one thing I think that the LMP2 guys would appreciate is if he just allows them to race. So if he's going to let them pass here for 30 seconds or so and then go back to racing, maybe that's the key. I don't know. But it is starting to impact Warling and Challenger as they race for the win.
I agree, and especially seeing a faster car having this much trouble is got to be frustrating, especially to the LMP2 leaders. Like you said, they have a pretty sizable gap back to third, but both of these guys are first and second. They want to be able to overtake one another or finish the race in said position. So seeing a faster car in front of you have difficulties with their own car to the point where it's slowing you down is very frustrating, especially for leaders. If it was mid-pack, maybe a little bit less stressful, but more stressful for the leaders, as we see leaders yet again in the GTP class. Banfield goes by Dowd. He scored the leader up on the ticker, so that means he was probably ahead at the line, but Dowd not letting him get away. Dowd's going to use that draft, being right up on his bumper, maybe to make a move coming into the Michelin chicane, or not. It looks like he's just going to stick behind as of right now, pulls out, going to have a battle coming into the Michelin chicane.
That pass did just happen into that Daytona chicane. Dowd looks to the inside into the Michelin chicane, but backs out. So through the two chicanes, one pass for the lead does occur. That is Banfield going back ahead of Nathan Dowd at the top end of Hypercar. So the lead has changed back into the hands of car 777 as they work hastily down to the Mulsanne corner. We got so wrapped up with the LMP2 leaders, we missed that pass the race lead in Hypercar, but I'm glad we caught the tail end of it as the Sector 5, number 7, goes back after the 777 here of Ross Banfield. And just to wrap that up with the LMP2 leaders, it is going to be frustrating for them as now Warling and Challenger are tasked with, once again, trying to go by those cars, as we've got a great battle as well here in Hypercar, 3 of them on top of one another. There's so much happening, but one final detail, I don't want this to be discouraging in any way to Drew Neubauer, because everybody has to start somewhere and start getting reps in these cars. However, you have to balance when you're getting those reps and impacting other races. That's all it is. We don't want this at all to be discouraging to him. Drew is maybe just beginning his experience possibly in these GTP cars, or maybe just needs a little bit more of the setup. We don't know. But when it impacts the other races for the lead, that's when we talk about it. As we're watching a great battle here in the middle of Hypercar. Dino Vela in that Ferrari. Vincent Leherbier here in that Porsche. And Sebastian Jackson as well has been passed up by these two. I suspect Vela and Leherbier have a little more pace than Jackson right now. He seems to have a little right front damage.
I'm looking over at my iRacing and race control right now, and they just issued safety car, safety car, safety car. We might have our full course yellow.
That would be it then. So, yeah, here we go. Pit stop from Banfield. He's coming in. So let's bring up the safety car graphic. Caution is out. And what's going to happen here is this opens the pit lane. This is not a physical safety car. This is most comparable to a virtual safety car in Formula One, where passing is not allowed on the racetrack. Challenger goes by Warling for the LMP2 lead because Challenger is trying to catch the pacing line, the pacing field, but our GTP leaders are in. So I believe Challenger will go around and catch the back end now of the Hypercar field as the Hypercars come in. But this is most comparable to a virtual safety car in Formula One. When they set up the pacing line, Zach, they will be in their pit limiter. So they'll be at 37 miles per hour or 60 kilometers per hour around the racetrack, not behind a pace car. The leader will act kind of as that pace car, if you will. They will be in a pacing line that will now be headed by Banfield as he leaves the pit lane first. And he will leave that pit limiter on. You see, he's in the pit limiter here. He will leave that on now as we're under yellow, virtual safety car. everybody's going to pack up behind him. The series admins will do what they can to line up class by class, but also give everybody an opportunity to pit here. So you see Johnson down the pit lane, Cabani down the pit lane, Dino Vela is coming into the pit lane here as Vincent Herbier stays out. This might be what Vincent wanted.
And it's, I was kind of going to talk about that. I do think this is what Vincent wanted. Now it's going to stack up everybody, especially if there's any cars or if there's no cars in between him and the leaders. He's going to have a chance now with the leaders now going to be on cold tires regardless of when we start or not, or when we come back to a restart. There's no way those tires are going to come up to temp while just kind of pacing right now. So this might be exactly what he wanted. This might have fallen into what he needs, but one of the things that I do kind of want to see here is that, like you were talking about earlier, it took about 30 minutes for everything to get through, or to get through the caution in and of itself. That means we're probably going to have roughly about 40 minutes of racing left, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. So what we just saw, maybe the hecticness between the leaders is going to vamp up even that much more once we do take the green flag.
And this puts GT3 teams in a really awkward spot because they will likely, if they pit now, they will likely have to pit again at the end of the race, probably about 10 minutes prior, maybe 5 minutes prior. But these laps are 3-4 minutes long. So it reduces your options. You really only have one option then to pit. When do you pit? Now, I think you have to come in if you're GT3. You have to come in and get fuel because that's kind of the meta. You've already seen your leader come in, Tyler Campbell. He just worked off the pit lane. But it's going to be a challenge for them to either stretch or short pit or something. And knowing that this caution period, this pacing line, could extend for the better part of an hour almost. We could be over 30 minutes in this process. You could pit again.
Well, one of the things I think this opens up the door for is the GT3s have to make a pit stop regardless. Like you were saying, they're not going to be able to make it should they have just pitted just now. So if there's GT3s that still have maybe another 30 minutes, maybe another 20 minutes on fuel, if they're able to get under that hour and then pit when they need to, as if there was no caution, they could have possibly just jumped the leaders. I mean, maybe they feel like their car has a chance to do so, or maybe they just track position in general. But I mean, this opens up the book wide open for the GT3 cars as far as strategy goes. A pit stop has to be made regardless of if it was now or if it was, if you didn't do it now. So I think this is wildly thrown the book wide open for the GT3 strategy. I don't know I don't know if this does open up for LMP2 and GTP, but I think this is wildly thrown open the book for the GT3 class.
A lot of great points there. Also this is a very confusing process for a first-timer, but Race Control does a really good job here in the Major Series of sorting these guys out, telling them exactly what they need to be doing and when. Race Control has been super, super helpful. They've got some really competent guys up there making decisions and giving these processes to these drivers, walking them through this situation. Also worth touching on, every hypercar left in this race is in this pacing train, already lined up, and we're slowly we've added all of the LMP2 field in this pacing train. We have nearly added the entire GT3 field. These guys have gotten formed up pretty quickly. You're going to have to keep me honest with notifications from Race Control, Zach, but we could have a relatively quick virtual safety car here. This might not take the full half hour that we were expecting. If these guys line up this quickly and Race Control feels it's sorted and good to go, as there's the call for drivers to get over to the right side. You saw it pretty clear.
Yes, sir.
The Race Control is not going to, I think, try to line these guys up by class, I think, will be the call. But if Race Control feels like they're lined up pretty quick, we could go back green a little bit faster than in other time slots and other splits. So this is going to be a very hectic, fluid situation as the entire field now is in this train. Aside from a few straggling LMP2s, Christian Challoner has just been released, it looks like. There he is. Robert Nash as well. They're out of Tetra Rouge, it looks like. So they're actually finishing their lap to catch up to the pacing train. They will be on the lead lap, and them not pitting. This is Challoner, Nash, Peterson, Northway, Worling, and Schmidt, I believe, as well as Santana. They are all on the lead lap. But then, okay, Holman has been released.
Yeah, they're slowly going down a list of drivers now, so this might be maybe not a lengthy process, but they are calling each car one by one right now to go by, so we're going to see plenty more start driving by here, but as of right now, like you said, everybody is relatively formed up. Now it's just a matter of getting back to the line after being getting the wave by to get reformed up and possibly get this race going back underway.
And of course, the goal here is to, just like the start of the race, have 3 cohesive, orderly groups of cars based on their class. So Race Control is going to organize Hypercar, LMP2, and GT3, and it seems because Christian Challoner stayed out here, no, he actually... Okay, he stayed out initially, then pitted. This is smart from Challoner. So he's at the back of the train, but on the same lap as the overall leader. Because he's at the back end of the pacing train, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that's why you're seeing all of the LMP2 field get waved back around to catch up to their class leader. So they're passing the hypercars to catch up to their class leader. I wish we had Bryant Lucas here today. Bryant, I don't know if you're going to be able to watch this. He's on a mission right now in Montana. But Bryant Lucas was a godsend during the Majors 24 last year because he understood the process to a T. He walked us through it. He was part of Race Control in those splits last year. And we're going to miss him heavily during the Majors 24 coverage in a couple of weeks because he was a godsend, literally, during that process. But I'm doing my best trying to interpret from what we've seen in past races to try and make sense of this, and hopefully it's working to a point. While this happens, and I'll give you a chance to just listen to Race Control for a second here, Zach, I want to touch on what's upcoming for us here at Pit Stop TV. Next up for us, it is a road race for the BRB Butt Kicker Cup Series as we go to Circuit of the Americas on Tuesday, June 3rd. Then the BRB Butt Kicker Cup Series has a week off. They'll be missing June 10th. That'll be the date of their All-Star race, but they won't be racing for points, and it won't be shown here on Pit Stop TV, meaning their next oval race is Bristol all the way on June 17th. Then you see we get right into Majors 24 coverage that weekend as we'll be going through what has been dubbed Zeus's Revenge. There has never been rain in the Majors 24 yet. It was, I believe, turned on last year in 2024, I want to say. Maybe I'm already missing a year in there somewhere, but I want to say it was last year, Zach, that rain was enabled here on iRacing, and there has never been rain in a Majors 24. They tested it out a bunch in the Majors Endurance Challenge, and we're going to have rain in that Majors 24 in a couple of weekends, and I am so excited. That will be the very first broadcast with rain here on the channel. I am pumped for that. It's going to be Zeus's Revenge. It's going to be a deluge at points, it sounds like. Hopefully not too bad. Drivers have had many conversations about it, but from my side, from the broadcaster side, I'm excited, and I can't wait to see how that ends up going. And Zach, there's plenty of places to keep up with Pit Stop TV, all on the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to keep up with each and every single detail, like Andrew said, going through everything that's going on here, you can follow us on Pit Stop TV, on Facebook, Instagram, Facebook /Pit Stop TV, Instagram /Pit_Stop_TV, TikTok Pit Stop TV 1, here on Twitch Pit_Stop_TV, YouTube /Pit Stop TV 1, and on X /Pit Stop TV_. So there's plenty of social medias for you all to go follow to try to keep up with both the Majors 24, the Butt Kicker series, and exciting series coming up as the year starts to unfold. So if you want to stay up to date on what broadcasts may be coming up, there's the places to follow.
We do have more road racing coming up in 2025 for you road racing fans that are here for this style of broadcast and this style of racing. The North American Racing League is confirmed to be returning for season number 8 later this summer, so keep an eye out for that. That'll be with GT3 cars as per usual. Their 8th season of racing coming up very soon. For now, we continue on here with the Majors Le Mans 2.4, and this is a good chance, Zach. Go ahead.
If I could, apologies for interjecting. They are starting to split up the classes. They're starting to keep cars to the right, all GTPs to move past LMP2s and such. So there is a possibility we could go racing by the end of this lap. Maybe another one just to make sure they have everything right, but they are starting to split up into classes.
The way this caution fell was very, very convenient for race control to get this field lined up quickly because, again, I timed it out in the European race, top split anyways, 33 minutes to sort that field out and get them lined up, get everybody pitted, and get back racing. It has not been that here in this one. I believe it's been about 12 minutes, Zach. Check me on that if you need to.
I think by the time we go racing, it'll be about 12 to 15. So should we get going on this lap. So I think you're almost right on the money there. Maybe if we add another lap, maybe an extra, 10 minutes? Not even that.
They're about 13 minutes. 13 to 14 minutes for a pace lap here on the pit limiter. I just checked the YouTube preview player, and it's been about 12, now 13 minutes. So I was pretty close. My estimation's on point today. About 12, 13 minutes since we went full course yellow, and that shows because we're coming back around to complete this lap. I will shut up for a second. What are you hearing from race control?
Doesn't look like much. The pits are going to remain open, but it looks like we are going to go another lap. Race control hasn't given us any kind of idea on green flag, so it looks like this is going to be the stop to solidify what your strategy is or get yourself in position. So there's a possibility we're going racing the next lap.
Yeah, I would expect this 13-minute lap coming up to carry us to the green flag. I think this will be the 1 to green lap then, if I had to guess. As you see more cars come down the pit lane, the stragglers that maybe didn't pit or want to pit again, they come in here and they will take service. I don't think that's going to change anything in hypercar, but Zach, we talked about the 1 hour mark in GT3. I expect that entire category of race car on the pit lane here. Maybe not. Tyler Campbell stays out, Austin O'Neill stays out. I would think you would want to pit here to make sure you're good on gas, but I don't see many pitting, if any.
Well, we were seeing earlier that the cars, we do see some GT3s come in, but we kind of made it earlier that the cars didn't make it the full hour, maybe, 45 to 55 minutes when we were talking about it earlier. So there's a possibility that what we were talking about earlier is going to happen. Some cars are going to try to split it right down the middle where they don't have to pit until their car runs out, or they're just gonna either try to stretch it now. But I mean, like we were talking about earlier, this is gonna throw the GT3 strategy wide open as far as what happens coming down to the races. We do finally duck under the hour mark, so this is going to be something to watch as the race progresses here.
I could well be wrong, but I like this pit stop from Abate and Foster. To come in and take fuel right at the hour mark. They can save a lot under this yellow. I think they're going to be the first cars in GT3 that are good to go to the end. So watch the 09 and 11. Right now, they're 37th and 38th overall, 8th and 9th in class. They're going to have a lot of work to do as far as actual positioning on the racetrack. But if I'm Tyler Campbell, I might be kicking myself in the rear end. That was an opportunity to pit and be good to the end. And track position, sure, there's something to be said for it, but I feel like that fuel positioning would have been better at this point in time.
Oh, and I think so too, because when we were talking about it, that's another, we're still got another 10 minutes before we get around to the start-finish line, so that's going to put the guys that just pit right on top of that, just stretch it the entirety of the way. So if Campbell's able to get away and get a good, decent little time in between the cars behind him, then he's got himself a good shot at winning this race. But if his car runs out right there at the end, the cars that just pit have a very, very realistic chance of making it to the end should they be saving right here, right now. Which would be silly if they are not. But either way, this is going to put the GT3s that just pit either right on the cusp or maybe a corner or two good to the end.
And Zach, I might have missed this from race control and you're listening here. I don't know, but there is a point in time when we're getting ready to come back around to the green that drivers are instructed, the lead driver is instructed, he is able to release the pit limiter and continue at a speed of up to 80 miles per hour, I believe. It might be 80 kilometers an hour considering the pace they're at. But right now, Banfield is leading the way at 56 miles per hour. I'll do a quick Google. What is 80 kilometers? I wonder.
Right now,
49. So it's got to be 80 miles per hour because 49 miles is 80 kilometers. So
okay.
I would think he's kind of choosing the pace right now, which is interesting that he's chosen about 56 miles per hour.
Well, they just let the leader go up to 100 miles per hour, so you're going to start seeing the leaders slowly start creeping up to it.
Right in front of a chicane, too. That's going to be a little bit hectic for these guys, but that should still give them a chance to... And now you'll see the weaving. Now you will see these guys all try to work on tire temperature. We talked about it earlier, Zach. This place, the nature of this racetrack and cold tires... It takes a lot to warm these tires up, so now you're seeing everybody do the weave to build some temperature, work some friction on those new Michelin tires, and try to build some temp, try to be ready to go racing when the green flag officially drops. It should be happening when we come back around to the start-finish line this time.
Yeah, they were talking about it in race control that they're gonna let everybody start weaving. The race control reminded them to weave to make sure to get the tires up to temp. As you see the leader wiggle coming out of that corner there, that's what to kind of expect because these tires are not up to temp. He said that they're gonna regroup them up, but there's a I did not get the official word just yet on green flag, but from the looks of it, we're gonna be going this time.
And the LMP2 field, because of Christian Challoner, I believe, staying out when he did, has stayed on the overall lead lap. This is impressive because the GT3 field is 2 laps down, the way they got caught out. Regardless, everybody will go back racing this time around. While we wait on the official call to go back green, let's take a look at the partners here of Pit Stop TV. Go ahead.
If I may interject, race control has said pace car or safety car is in this time, so we will be going back green.
There you go, the official call. I want to give a big thank you to Whiplash SimCams, ATVO, CC's Business, and Cody Williams Design, as well as Lucky Performance and the North American Racing League. If we go back to the beginning of the safety car, it was with about a minute 14 to go. We've only spent about 20 minutes under the safety car so far. Race Control has done a fantastic job of minimizing the impact of this safety car. We thought it was going to be a worst case scenario, Zach, of maybe 40 minutes to go. We're going to have over 50 when we go back green flag racing.
And I still think that gives each driver plenty of time to be able to mix it up a little bit more. Like I thought earlier, like we were talking about earlier, 30 minutes would kind of throw these guys into maybe a panic situation, but 50 minutes is still plenty of time to develop a run, develop a position on track to get yourself to further your overall position. So this has probably put some of the drivers' minds at ease as far as time-wise, but it certainly hasn't put their mind at ease because now everybody is a lot closer behind them now.
It's a sprint race from here. About 54 minutes to go this time by. We will release these drivers to go back green flag racing here in the Majors Le Mans 2.4, a tune-up for the Majors 24, one of the biggest events in iRacing annually. Here we go into the Ford chicanes. Ross Banfield in control of the field will take down the caution graphic. We're going back racing this time by Ross Banfield, Nathan Dowd, Vincent LaHerbier, Daniel Johnson, Zeke Cabani, and everybody else through the Ford chicanes will be released this time to go back racing. Where is the official call as one comes into the pit lane? That's Drew Neubauer. Everybody lights it up. We're back racing at Le Mans. Nathan Dowd already a second back of Ross Banfield as we work through the Dunlop chicane. At the top end of LMP2, it's Christian Challoner over Robert Nash and Austin Peterson. That is a much different look as there's a spinner. That's the 72, Robert Covey around at the top of the hill. But we continue on. Everybody looks okay. Watching Christian Challoner navigate the slower Jason Wallet there for a second. He had a bobble through those S's. Wallet might have damage. Jason Wallet's way off pace right now.
I have a little bit of, yeah, he might have damage if he's a GTP car. Plus, he probably has to do a little bit of a slowdown for being off track coming into the Mulsanne straight. So right now, kind of interfering with these GTP cars. As we see here, Dowd get overtaken by LaHerbier. This is kind of what we were talking about earlier. These cars are going to be on cold tires. LaHerbier's best chance to strike is going to be now. I did kind of want to allude back to that restart as Banfield was able to get a good jump on Dowd, but this is going to play right into LaHerbier's kind of what he needed and what he wanted as far as strategy-wise.
So LaHerbier has positioned himself here in second now. Everybody in prototypes has got to pit at least one more time, likely just the one more time. As Jason Wallet is going to split up our LMP2 leaders, he now backs out into the Michelin chicane. Our LMP2 leaders, Christian Challoner and Robert Nash. Travis Worling is down in sixth. So Worling with a lot of work to do to get back to where he once was at the top end of LMP2. This is going to be a long 50 minutes for him.
And this is where you've really got to pace yourself too. You can't really get overzealous, especially with the car that's so aero dependent. You don't want to have any damage from any other car, but you also don't want to give up time. So he's really going to have to pace himself, make sure that he doesn't put that car in harm's way. Big move from the Porsche back there. The purple Porsche, or excuse me, that's not a Porsche. Well, McLaren. The black car getting... McLaren in the purple, Porsche in the black coming into the Mulsanne corner. Big move from the Porsche. The McLaren backs out. Maybe he's going to stay there. Porsche's going to be able to hold position.
That's Kevin Hill in that black Porsche going by. Peter Cheney in the purple McLaren getting past. And look at Jackson Wade right behind them. We at one point kind of wrote Jackson Wade out of this race. He's back into things. Everybody on an even level playing field here as these guys work just ahead of Christian Abate and Brenton Foster. We've got to keep our eyes here on this GT3 category. When do these guys have to pit? Do they have to pit? As Peter Cheney makes a move here, now backs out into Indianapolis. They will hold station, and there's Abate and Foster right behind this little train. This is, on your screen, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th in GT3.
And one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit, too, is obviously we've been talking about the draft for the Aero cars, the Aero cars being the GTP and LMP2. Draft still does play a big factor with the GT3s, but maybe not as big as a factor as it would in the other two classes just because of how big and stocky these cars are. As we look up front, two Acuras up here up front. That would be O'Neill and Willard for the GT3 class. So these cars have a little bit more manhandling to them. You don't really have to be aero dependent. You have to kind of work the throttle, work the brake, work the wheel a little bit more for these cars. So these guys right now are facing a whole different type of car for especially this last end of the run, as we see the two teammates right on the back end of I forget his name, but as we come back up here to the LMP2 class, right on the back end of GTP.
That was Covey going back by Challoner. So Jason Wallet, Robert Covey struggling right now. Covey hits the curbing there and backs up to Challoner once again. That's going to allow Nash to strike, I think. Robert Nash right behind that all-black LMP2 car has got an opportunity suddenly on Christian Challoner. Again, this is where if you're in that faster class and you notice you're starting to impact the guys behind you that are in a slower class but have pace, you might just want to get out of the way.
It's just a matter of you want to get out of the way, but you're a faster car too, so it's almost impossible to get out of the way just because you don't really want to ride there because you're in a faster car. But if your car is ill handling, it might be the wisest of decisions to get out of the way. But if you feel like you have something to get away from somebody, then it's a bit difficult mind-wise to get away as we look at the battle here for the LMP2 class.
That was Warling going past Santana on the exit of the Daytona chicane. Warling makes that pass to 5th place. I mentioned he would be re-gridding or restarting down in 6th, trying to work back through all of the LMP2 class. He's got his work cut out for him as here goes Kabani on the outside of Johnson into the Mulsanne corner. The Kingsman Racing driver defends. That's Daniel B. Johnson at the wheel, hanging on to 4th place. Zeke Kabani will have to continue working on 4th as here goes Kabani to the right.
He's going to have the preferred line through the first little kinks going into Indy, but he won't have the preferred line in Indy itself. If he wants to make the pass, he's going to have a really, really strong braking point here, or he's going to have position, throws it into that first little kink. He's going to have the position, maybe threw it in a little deep. Nope, car stuck. He's going to be all good.
Problems for Jason Wallet. He has been turned around, it seems, at the Mulsanne corner and has been passed up by the majority of the LMP2 field. So another GTP hypercar having trouble. Let's go back and take a replay at what just happened for Jason Wallet quickly here. This is the back end of the replay. He just goes around and Covey was impacted. That was not a great view. We'll get a better one here. So again, these two drivers were a little off pace, coming to grips with their cold tires, just in the way of the top end of the LMP2 category. Wallet here, on his own, turns in and the car just whips around.
Yeah, he caught a little bit of the white line. Maybe Covey did a little bit of the same thing. Cold tires, the car does not like catching any kind of paint. And as somebody in the LMP2 class, that is the last thing you want to see, faster cars being either spun or spinning in front of you, just because you know those cars are going to have to come back up through your field, especially if you're the leaders of the LMP2 class, like Challenger and Nash. They're going to have to watch these cars come back up through their field yet again. So the mental aptitude now of the LMP2 class is being put to the test just because of these two GTP cars.
And here's Wallet working on his teammate Klaus, trying to go by. Hasn't found a good moment to do it yet, so he'll wait in behind Klaus to get through the Ford chicanes and then try again. But yeah, Wallet going to have his work cut out for him there as we go on board with the Giga Racing driver of Robert Nash, chasing down Christian Challenger for the race lead in LMP2. This is a position that Nash has not been in today. He previously had only been as high as, I think, 3rd place, so moving up to 2nd now, thanks to Travis Warling having some pit troubles and getting cycled to the back end, the middle portion, if you will, of the LMP2 class. Nash up to 2nd, chasing down Challenger. Nash was victorious in class, I believe. Let me check my notes. I believe he was victorious specifically in, LMP2 at Daytona. So he knows how to get it done in this category of car, in this style of racing. Can he do it again today?
Looking through the LMP2 class just a little bit, and with these guys up here battling, Warling is on the same straight as them, maybe 4 seconds back, maybe a little less than. So Warling still in a good position, but this is a part where, like I was talking earlier, where you've got to keep your wits about you. You can't really overdrive the car. So we come back up here to still the LMP2 class, but Warling still kind of in that mix, so he's not out of it just yet, but he's still got some cars to get by.
On board with Brian McGreevy as he works on Shane Vickery. This is for the 10th position in LMP2. Again, a spec class of racing. Here comes Jason Wallet screaming on by in that Cadillac. That gives these guys a wake-up call as they work down towards the Michelin chicane, side by side for position here in LMP2. Who's going to give? McGreevy gives, and Vickery takes that spot back away.
That's one of the... Again, I keep throwing the word around frustrating, just because you were battling side by side with somebody in your class. A faster car comes by and gives up the draft to somebody who you're battling, and it ends up benefiting them over you. So right now it's just a matter of trying to keep your head down, trying to keep your emotions in check to make sure that you don't let something like that really throw your race off, as we look at Warling here on the same straightaway as the LMP2 leaders of Nash and Chandler. So he still got a good shot. He's a little far back, but as of right now, he's still got a really, really good chance at this.
This would be for 4th position in class. Warling looking up at Northway. If he can just close in a little bit more, maybe he can make a move in one of these corners. Northway bobbles there in Indianapolis. This could open the door for the Porsche Curves. Maybe not here at Arnage just yet. And yeah, they follow suit for Arnage. But watch the Porsche Curves here. We'll stay on board with Whirling for it. He might be able to get close enough to make a move maybe on exit. You can't really make a move in the Porsche Curves, but you can try to use it as a pinch point going into or out of the Porsche Curves. So Whirling not able to make the move just yet. He'll stay in behind. But does Northway make a bobble? Does he make a mistake? Does he give up time here and allow the opportunity on exit maybe? He's a little off sequence there. You saw him check up a tad. Tries to get back to the right. You saw the car pitch a little bit over the grass. Here's that opportunity for Whirling, just like that, to get positioning here on Robert Northway, and that's all it takes. Pass is being made by Whirling. That's fourth position, just like that.
And that's exactly what he needed to. He needs quick passes. He doesn't need to battle any cars. He needs quick passes in order to get back up to the leaders up in front of him. The only caveat to that now is Northway is going to be in his draft, and he's going to have a chance to get back at Whirling. So the battle may not be over just yet. Just because you made the pass doesn't mean that the battle's over. He's still got a bit of cars in front of Whirling here to be able to get back up to the LMP2 leaders. But that battle is not done as we jump back up here to the GTP class.
On board with Dowd as he chases the Herbier. They are 3 seconds behind Ross Banfield. This is looking like Ross's kind of race right now. But there is one pit stop left to go, and you've got to be absolutely picture perfect at this point. Hopefully you've practiced pitting enough. Maybe you got those reps in during the race to help you out. You've got to be absolutely perfect to maximize all that you can into the pit lane whenever you have to pit, and on corner exit or pit exit. And then, Zach, I think the conversation becomes, do you take tires? I don't know that you can get away without tires, but do you want to risk cold tires? As Northway's got a problem, he's in the pit lane.
We're going to have to see. It looks like he exited, so that might be the end for Northway tonight. But let's see. Before we carry on with that conversation, let's see what happened here to Northway following Whirling here.
This is right after we pulled away from Northway and Whirling, too.
When Whirling was following him, it looked like the LMP2 of Northway was just kind of sliding a little bit through the corners. It looked like the car wasn't exactly set through much of anything. So I guess we're going to have to see maybe the car gets upset through the corner. That's the way Whirling was able to make up time and get the pass on Northway. So I'm kind of curious to see if the car just was upset, maybe got upset through a corner.
He just pulled off.
Oh, he pulled off. Must have had some sort of either issue or something to get to, maybe. That's tough to see. I hate that for him.
I want to go back and listen. Let's just listen specifically and watch the dash. There's a bottom out sound, and I can't tell if he blew the engine bottoming out or what just happened. Is there a puff of smoke?
Well, you saw it towards the end of that replay there. He was kind of wiggling the wheel, and the car wasn't really doing much. So I don't know if maybe a wheel disconnect, but usually when a wheel disconnects, the car just goes hard left or hard right. Here he's able to slow his momentum. Sure, he gets the wall, but he's able to slow his momentum. I'm not too sure.
I think he just pulled off there. I don't think there was anything that happened to him. Here's Ross Banfield leading the way in Hypercar, and we can resume that conversation, Zach, because I'm curious what you think maybe. Do you get tires when you make that fuel stop for these Hypercars, or do you try to risk it on those old tires so that you don't have cold tires? I mean, cold or old? What's better, what's worse?
Well, see, and I think in these cars too, if I remember correctly, the tires go on during the fueling process, so you might as well as get tires during the fueling process. If tires took up a good chunk of pit stop and then you fuel, I mean, I could see that being a possibility, but then, you know, the time that you gain on the cars that did take tires is immediately dashed by said tires. So if tires are being put on during, as we now see Dowd be able to take over second from Le Herbier, if the tires go on during fueling, you've got to take tires regardless of any kind of situation. But if the tires are separate from fueling, I feel like that could be a bit of a strategy. And maybe the warm tires coming off pit road are able to gain a little bit of time. But I feel like at some point, those tires are going to hit a spot where new tires will eventually catch up to you. So I think if you're close enough, maybe within a second, maybe 2 seconds, it might be a viable strategy. Again, depending on if the tires do get put on during a fueling situation. But for me, it's both tires and gas. You've got to give yourself the best possible chance to make up time, and I feel like tires are going to be that.
If you have to take tires, if you plan on taking tires, I think you probably want to pit with about 20 to 30 minutes to go. I don't think you want to run all the way out and run on worse tires. There is something to be said for running on light fuel, but I don't think you want to keep running on old tires necessarily. I think you want to get that cold tire period over and done with as quickly as possible as well. I don't think you want to have cold tires for the last 2 or 3 minutes of the race. That's something these drivers will have to manage as this race goes on because of when we went back green, but that's going to be fascinating no matter what as we go on board here with Austin Peterson. Austin has run down Robert Nash, but more importantly, Zach, let's flip this graphic out for the next one. Look at Warling, just 6/10 now, right behind Peterson. That was 2 seconds a lap or two ago. So Warling is on a mission here, has caught these two, and is now back in the battle for second place. He may never rejoin Christian Challoner, but what a run. Warling is on from 6th to try and catch back up and battle for second place. Also, it's about that time. We got to start talking about driver of the day, Zach. I'm not going to put you on the spot just yet, but who do you feel like is a contender so far? Because we've each got to take 2 drivers from these 3 classes. Usually, we only have 1 class of driver or 1 class of car, and we just pick 2 each, and it's pretty simple, straightforward. But today, we can only pick 2 drivers each from 3 classes spread out. I mean, that is a much more difficult conversation because each class has their own race. Each class has their own battle. And we've got to somehow narrow it down to just 4 total drivers amongst these 43 that showed up today over 3 classes. There's a bobble there from Nash that opens the door for Peterson. We'll keep watching this LMP2 battle, but who is ringing your bell so far?
I mean, like we were talking about earlier, everything was just kind of set in stone because of how the racing was going, but that caution did kind of throw in a little bit of a monkey wrench into everything right now. Obviously, looking at the LMP2 class, I'm going to have to say Warling just because of where he started on that restart from the caution, the fact that he's been able to drive up to these guys. And if I'm being honest, I think he has the potential to go up and catch Chandler. So I think I would have to put Warling in that conversation, depending on how he's able to get by these 2 cars. Obviously, he wants to get by him as quick as possible, as the leader of the LMP2. Chandler has kind of scooted away from Nash. So, but right now, to throw a driver into it, I don't know about 2. I'm trying to think of the second one, but right now, my first instinct would have to be Warling, just because of the hill that was put before him during that pit stop and the how far he's climbed up said hill.
Our first hypercar has hit the pit lane here since the caution flag about 20 minutes ago. Covey comes in and we'll take service. Of course, we saw his struggles and challenges there when we went back green flag racing, but good to see him on the pit lane and taking service and continuing on with this race. He's got 34 minutes to go. If he just lasts these last 34 minutes, he can still have a decent result as Joseph Homan comes in. That's Warling's teammate. Warling did not pit. Homan did, and it looks like either he's already down off the jacks or he's opting for no tires, and I think it's the second of the 2.
Depending on if they're in the same voice chat or not, this is going to be valuable information for Warling as far as if that car is worth having no tires and just fuel, both. If Homan can relay what the car feels like and if it's worth it, I feel like that puts Warling in a fantastic position. So it's gonna be interesting to see how Homan, big move through the Daytona chicane. He's able to get by. Man, Warling on the outside, power move of the first Daytona chicane. now it's just going to be if Peterson can respond here going into the Michelin chicane.
Here we go to the Michelin chicane, side by side behind the trees there somewhere. Here we go. This is a good view. Wallet right behind in a hypercar, but side by side for third place in LMP2 in the final 30 minutes nearly. Walling, Peterson side by side, maybe a dash of contact, maybe some more. And here goes Wallet on the left side of these two drivers. Walling just slides in front of Peterson, and they'll continue on. But what can Peterson do here at the end of the straightaway?
He's gonna have to pull out like he is here. Warling trying to get the draft off the supercar. Warling deep into the corner, deep into the brake zone. I don't think we can see any kind of bumper like we do in NASCAR, but Peterson still right there on his back bumper. This is the last thing Warling wanted to see, was the car that he overtook stay with him. Now he's got a battle for this position, which is allowing Nash to scoot away. So right now, Warling's kind of put in between a rock and a hard place with the draft from the GTP and a battling Peterson.
Leherbier to the pit lane, by the way, from third place in hypercar. That's Peterson backing out there into Indianapolis. One car off, that's Wallet. Forget about him for the time being, as these two will continue on and continue to battle for third place in LMP2. And while this is a great win for Warling to get ahead of Peterson, this ongoing battle is only hurting him more and more as time goes on. It's pulling him further back of Nash and Challoner.
He's kind of been able to build up a gap, and as we've seen, the LMP2s have to take a little bit of time to develop any kind of run. So as we look now, Leherbier in pits for his what's supposed to be his final stop. I hope it's his final stop. He should be able to make it to the end from here. But Leherbier pitting from P3 in his GTP.
Herbier taking service, Daniel Johnson as well, so two Porsches on the pit lane at the same time. No tires for Johnson. He's going to opt to keep those same Michelins on. That's the thing I'm talking about here. He's going to exit right behind Leherbier, about 1.2 seconds back. And Zach, while Johnson's been a little further off pace of Leherbier, who's been battling in the top three so far today, I wonder if Johnson can maybe go up to, at least catch up to, maybe even pass Leherbier while Leherbier is on cold tires.
I mean, I think it's a good possibility, just because, like we've kind of documented throughout this race, cold tires are kind of the bane to these drivers' existence right now, just because their pace has to be so much slower trying to get those tires up to temp. And 2 to 3 laps here is what? About 10 minutes, maybe a little less than. So that's going to take us to about 20 minutes as soon as those tires get up to temp for Leherbier. So it's a very possibility car around in the LMP2 class.
First incident we've seen in a while. Brian McGreevy goes around here in the middle portion of the LMP2 category. Let's go back and see what happened here into the Ford chicanes. Watch the number 68 of McGreevy racing with Brian Barnes and the number 4 right behind him. And really no cars ahead. Barnes is going to go for a dive maybe. Yeah, he does. And I don't know that McGreevy knew he was there. And that even tags, I think that's Timothy Klaus.
Look, from the paint schemes, it looks like his teammate just, oh man. Especially right here, the later part of the race, you kind of need everything to go either your way or, you know, as best as possible. So still a little less than 30 minutes to make up your time. It's just very, very difficult as we look on board with Johnson now behind Leherbier.
Johnson has made up about a second on Leherbier so far, and that's just through the opening portion of the lap. Closes in here into the Mulsanne corner. I think there's stock in this strategy of not taking tires because of how little extra they'll have to go in hypercars. Let's see if Johnson can make a move here on Leherbier, or if he's stuck behind him. By the way, in case you're wondering why we haven't talked much about GT3 in the last 20 minutes or so, that battle is very cut and dry so far. Tyler Campbell has been on a run. He is 3 seconds, now 4 seconds ahead of Austin O'Neill. O'Neill and Willard have swapped spots. Willard was in second, O'Neill third. They are teammates. They have swapped positions. Here's a look at them. There's O'Neill in second and Willard in third. They are 3.7 and 6.5 seconds. Well, actually, O'Neill is 3.8 seconds back of Campbell. Willard is an extra 6.5 seconds back of Campbell. large gaps right now in GT3. There's not much happening. The best battle is here. Ray Partridge and Jackson Wade. Partridge gets passed up. Partridge, one of those drivers going for the Ironman Award this weekend, as he's running, I believe, in all 3 events, all 3 time slots, which is very difficult to do in some of these races. This might be one of the easier ones to do it for, but still a tall order.
Valuable seat time, though, to be in all 3 splits in order to gain valuable information, valuable seat time. That's going to be it's going to be benefiting him down the road. But as we look back up here at Johnson Leherbier still able to hold position on Johnson. Johnson has closed in, like you said earlier, Andrew. There might be some validity to this no tire stop. I was kind of thinking like a full stop, but these guys really don't have to take a full stop to make it to the end. They just got to. Not a splash and go, but something to the sort, so they don't really have to sit in pit road the entire time. So there might be some validity. We're kind of seeing what it would look like now. Johnson holding strong, not being able to get up and pass Leherbier as of right now. So I guess right now to keep an eye on this battle to see if there would be any kind of possibility that this strategy does turn out to be something worth trying right here at the end.
And Nathan Dowd is now on his outlap. He has pitted. We missed that while talking about those other classes. He has come in for service. He came in for just a 17-second stop. And Zach, that tells me he likely did not take tires. That's what that's indicative of. Let's review it here live and go back to the pit stop and see exactly if he jacked up or not. Here he is into his box. You see the pit timer at the bottom right. That's telling us the completed time. And that car did not go on jacks.
Car did not jack. No, sir.
So a no tire call here for Dowd. I like it. It's taking a risk, that's for sure. But he doesn't have to cope with those cold tires now.
The only thing that gets me now is what does Banfield do? Now, I mean, obviously he has a very large lead. He could probably come in and take tires, but if he also comes in and takes no tires, that throws the whole argument out the window as far as if someone is able to leapfrog in somebody else. But now it's just a matter of how does that car handle with more fuel being put into it and no tires.
Andy Banfield works here off the pit lane in LMP2. Here's a look at GT3 race leader Tyler Campbell. And I promise you, there is very little happening in the GT3 class right now. When the North American Racing League came here, it was a very active and lively race, but right now in GT3, I think maybe there's just a larger spread of speed amongst fewer cars. There's, let's see, 13 GT3s on the racetrack, and they are really far split apart for the most part. I mean, there's the grouping of Foster and Abate, they are close together. They've done some swapping of positions in 4th and 5th, but they're teammates. Then you have Jackson Wade and Ray Partridge. We saw that pass happen about a lap ago. That's the only excitement right now in GT3. It is a very calm class, and this is interesting because they have traditionally not been a calm class here at Le Mans. They have been a lot of fun to watch in the past as Sebastian Jackson is around. Problems for driver number 87. It looks like he was on his way to the pit lane, and that held up the number 19 in GT3. That is Nick Kuhn that he just held up on entry to the pits.
And that's going to waste a lot of time for Nick Kuhn. And I mean, that's a terrible situation. Obviously, Jackson was probably trying to get through the access road as quickly as possible to save some time, and he probably just overcooked maybe one of the little hitches of said access road. So, let's see here on the replay.
Locked up.
Yep.
Immediately, when one of these cars starts pitching around like that under braking, you can tell one of the corners of the car, if not multiple corners of the car, are locked up under braking. Might get a better view here from the drones. Let's watch. Can't really tell from that view, but if you've driven one of these cars, you know. That's a signature sign of lockup, and then he puts the limiter on early, and that holds up Kuhn, who closed in very quickly. And that, I'm sure, was frustrating to the 19 car and is probably going to affect GT3 a little bit, but it shouldn't be too detrimental.
Especially in Kuhn's sake, you know, for Jackson's sake, you obviously don't want to make the same mistake twice, especially now that your rear tires are lit up. You don't really want to get on the gas and spin it again right at pit entry. But it's frustrating for Kuhn just because he was just a victim of circumstance. He really didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything outside of the normal. He just got held up by a car that just spun coming down pit road. So there's really nothing he could do with the access road coming into pit road at Le Mans. You can't really bail out on that at that last second. So just a frustrating situation. Hopefully Kuhn's able to make up said time. But as we're on board with Nathan Dowd here coming through the Michelin chicane, he's able to be using the draft a little bit from the car in front.
And this is for position. Nathan Dowd trying to come back through the field after his pit stop. This is on Ryan Steele, who has not yet pitted for the final time today. And that's a big pass to make there into the Mulsanne corner. Dowd dispatching quickly of Steele, and now will work up to David Hall about 3 seconds ahead. Meanwhile, down in LMP2, Zach, Travis Worling, we're a little past where we thought we would nominate drivers, so let's just go ahead and do it. While we have the quick opportunity, let's go ahead and do it. I'll give you the floor. I have a feeling you're about to take this 90 car, though.
Well, the fact that he's caught up to P2 now in the LMP2 class, yeah, I would have to go with Worling as my pick of the day. I mean, like you said, to have the hill presented in front of him after that whole caution, to come in to get to come in for the pit stop, to lose track position and positions in and of itself, the fact that he's been able to drive back up to P2 and start battling for it, that's got to be my nomination. Is just the fact of being behind a lot of cars, like we mentioned earlier, that are really the same car all around. Maybe a couple setups, a little bit of a lockup. He's able to just easily pass. That is actually a huge help. Now he has a chance to run his race and possibly even catch up to first.
And for my first of 2 nominations, Zach, I cannot pass up Ross Banfield. I simply can't. He has just been so good today. Obviously has led all these laps. Let's bring up the stat graphic there on the bottom of the screen. 29 laps led out of 32 completed. That's impressive. He has been out front just about the entire race, and he's ripped a bunch of fast laps as well. We've seen the notification come up a bunch today showing new fastest lap and whatnot, mostly in the early portion of this race, as this race started in the morning and it's been getting hotter. We'll touch on weather conditions in a second. But he has been super fast. He got back by Dowd at one point. I don't know how you can go past Ross Banfield, so I have to nominate him.
I mean, you took my second nomination just because of everything you said there. He's been able to gap the GTP field. He's been on rails really the entirety of the race, so I agree with that nomination. But if I had to pick somebody else that's not Ross Banfield, thanks, Andrew, I'd probably have to go with Tyler Campbell, the leader of the GT3 class. I mean, if I'm being honest, we were kind of questioning his idea to not come down pit road on that caution just because of, fresh tires, fuel, whatever it may have been. But, I mean, really, he's just proven us wrong in that respect. He's gapped the GT3 field. There's really been no change as soon as he took the lead. So my second one would have to go to Tyler Campbell.
And taking that into consideration, I took one of your picks, you took my other one, so thanks for that. But we're getting some LMP2 pit stops here. I want to cover this briefly while we talk about driver of the day. There's Challoner into the pit lane, and I'll nominate my other driver here in just a moment. We don't want to miss this opportunity to look at Challoner, Worling, and everybody else in the box. I don't see tires going on for who is that? I think that's Peterson not taking tires. Worling's on the jacks. Challoner's on the jacks. Peterson is not on jacks. Peterson is not taking tires. It looks like even Nash is on jacks between these 4. Let's see when they release. I think Peterson's trying to use those warm tires to his advantage because I think in this car, fueling and tires might be separate. As Worling is held in the box just a little bit longer than Peterson, he's got to do all that work over again, Zach.
He really is. Now this puts Worling at such a disadvantage to go up and catch the leader. I think he can right now kiss that goodbye just because of how the pit cycle's straightened out. But now that he's on fresher tires, it's going to be a little while longer now for those tires to come into play. So now he's going to have to wait behind some of the older tires for those tires to come up. As we look here, I'm not for sure.
That was GTP, Dowd on Hall.
Yeah, there we go. Dowd on Hall. So Dowd able to get by Hall for position number
4.
4. Okay, so damn, Angel, you're right on top of it. I appreciate you helping me. But Dowd still coming through the field on older tires. We haven't seen Banfield come in just yet. But as we now look back to the LMP2 class, as we see Warling majorly off from behind these guys just because of the fact of cold tires. So it might pay dividends for the no tire strategy.
Remember, Peterson was the car that took no tires there. He goes back by Nash in a flash. Warling has to work back up, and Challoner will cycle back into the lead here in a lap or so in LMP2. But I've got to get my other nomination out of the way here. I've been struggling to think about it the entire time. We've been talking about other stories. It's given me a little bit of extra time to think. But I think I'm going to go off the board here. I'm going to take somebody that maybe is unexpected, but he's been a lot of fun to watch today. He's made some crazy moves, and he's not your obvious thought for a driver of the day contender. And I don't want to do any disservice to LMP2 leader-to-be, if you will, Christian Challoner, but Zeke Kabani has been a lot of fun to watch. He dropped through the field initially, down to 13th, and has since driven back through the field. So a comeback drive here for Zeke Kabani, currently second because of the pit stops being halfway done. But even when he stops, he should be a top 5 driver here, and very likely should drive back up to his original starting position. So I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to take somebody that's been a lot of fun to watch and go with Zeke Kabani in Hypercar for my other Driver of the Day nomination. That vote has just gone live on YouTube. You can now vote for your Driver of the Day, brought to you by the North American Racing League. I think those are 4 really good nominations. I think 3 obvious ones. We maybe should have still hit Challoner, but 3 really good nominations as far as guys who have led a bunch, and then Kabani, I think, is a wild card in that vote. Maybe he's got some fans out there that help him get that vote. We don't know. We'll find out here shortly. But Zeke Kabani's just been a lot of fun to watch. I feel like he deserves at least some kind of nod here and recognition for how much fun he's been to watch and his recovery drive through the hypercar field.
No, I agree with you. As soon as you started talking about him, it did kind of hit me that he has gone through a lot of uphill battles and seemingly tackled them all with grace. So I do like that nomination. So it's like you said, it's really cool to see him get back up here, albeit second because of pit strategy as of right now. But that's a really good nomination, and I'm glad you chose him.
With 16 minutes to go, there's your race leader, Ross Banfield. A little bit of traffic ahead, and looks like some LMP2 cars, but nothing crazy, nothing he can't handle, as he has handled every bump in the road with grace and precision so far today as that Porsche works his way through the Porsche curves. He's closing in on victory, and Zach, if we revisit point standings coming into today, you've got to look a little bit for Banfield. Not too far, but 6th place, no win just yet. Quite a few points out of the points lead just because of how good Dowd has been. Nash has been great. Challoner, Pataska, those 3 guys on top have been fantastic. Pataska missed around, that's why he's so far back in 4th. Then Leherbier in 5th, and then Banfield. Banfield should definitely launch ahead of Leherbier after this race. If he gets this win, does he overtake Pataska? I think that's a possibility. I don't see Dallas in this race, so he should be 4th in the standings. Could this be the beginning of a run for the championship if he starts rattling off wins, or can Dowd hang on to that points lead? Something to consider as we enter the final stages of this round here at Le Mans. And there we go, Banfield into the pit lane for service. Does he take tires?
It doesn't look like it. Usually that car goes up immediately on jack stands if you do take tires. So now it's just going to be interesting. How does his car fare with old tires and more fuel? As we look at now Kabani coming down pit road, this is going to be a big time saver for him as well, as it sounds like Banfield just launched. So Kabani here just to see how he weathers this storm.
There's Banfield down the way. Here comes Dowd. It's going to be Dowd ahead. Dowd had a 5-second shorter pit stop and made up all that time, and there's your drama of the race. Nathan Dowd able to pass up Ross Banfield through the pit stop. They've each got old, weathered, but warm tires. Can Ross Banfield catch back up to Nathan Dowd, straight back out of the pit lane, doesn't have to warm those tires up, can go right back to battling, but he's already 9/10 back.
And thinking back on it now, when Dowd come in, he didn't have to stay too long to get to his number. That's why his stop was 5 seconds shorter than Banfield. Banfield had to stay to get to the number that he needed, while Dowd didn't really need to stop too long. He already had fuel in the car. He just needed to get to his number and launch, and had time to get through the field. Now Banfield now has to be the one battling instead of the one having to hold off a battle. So he gains a lot of time there through the Daytona chicane. Maybe able to use the draft now down the Mulsanne straight to try to get himself back into position, but Dowd now has a much more bigger advantage now over Banfield.
This is going to be a fantastic battle between these two as they come around to lap Bob Beltrami in the Salami Machine. This is going to be a classic, I think, between these two at the top of the field. By the way, Cabani, after exiting the pit lane and all pit stops cycle out, he is ahead of Vincent Laherbier by about 2.6 seconds. He is in third place. I now feel a whole lot better about that nomination for driver of the day because he is squarely ahead of Vincent Laherbier by, like I said, 2.6 seconds or so. There he is in third. Started fourth, went to 13th. Has driven back up to the third spot, so very impressive run there. But here we go, one car off. That I think was McGreevy, maybe in the 68. Yes, it was McGreevy, sir. And that was a cloud of dust for these two leaders to drive through. 12 minutes to go, just a handful of laps left. Banfield's there. Can he make the pass? Here we go to Indianapolis.
Helped Banfield a lot more than hurt Dowd, just because the drivers that were in front of Dowd to help him with draft have seemingly... Banfield overdrove Indy just a little bit, had to back out of it, but luckily enough, coming up to a very slow corner, he can make up a little bit of time of that time lost. Still going to have to make up a little bit of it. He was there going into Indy. That draft and a little bit of extra speed going into that corner threw him off. Remember, he hasn't really been in any of that all day long. Now the fact that he has a car in front of him, less fuel, worn tires, this car's going to act a little bit differently than what it has all race long. This is why we were saying this is the biggest drama of the race so far, just because of this fact right here.
Yeah, earlier when Dowd passed Banfield, it was not very long-lived. Banfield quickly got back around Dowd in one of the chicanes, so that was a quick dispatch of the 7 car for the 777. Now he's got to work at it much more long-willed, if you will. It's going to take a lot more work here to get by that number 7, I think, as we hit about 10 minutes to go. This has got to be, I think, the 3, maybe 4 lap mark for these drivers. Not much racing left to go. It's all going to come to a head very quickly. Down in LMP2, Travis Worling has caught up to Robert Nash. Peterson has set sail in second, but Christian Challoner is off to the races. I kind of feel bad we didn't nominate him for driver of the day just because he has left these guys in his dust. 8.8 seconds back to Austin Peterson as there's a move. Worling on Nash side by side into the Michelin chicane, and a pass is made. Travis Worling back to the top 3.
And that's such a power move going into the chicane on the outside, yet still being able to stick and take the position away from Nash. So I mean, that was just impressive. Maybe it's just the tires, maybe not, but Worling, they're able to make a power move, maybe a little bit of a block. Just the tires are going to prevail there. Worling able to move up to third, now sets his sights on Peterson.
Austin Peterson just ahead by about 1.5 seconds over Worling. Travis Worling currently leading the driver of the day vote. He has been so much fun to watch. He led a bunch of laps. I wish... This is my one complaint with class racing and ATVO. And really at iRacing in general, because I don't think it's even an ATVO issue. I think it's an iRacing thing. You don't get the stat of laps led in class. So we can't tell how many laps Worling was out ahead of Challoner, but it was quite a while. They swapped the lead several times, and he's just been so much fun to watch. He and Challoner both swapping the lead, going back and forth, fighting at times, relaxing at others, and then the pit stop just caught him wrong. And you know what, Zach? A tangent to that, maybe that is Christian Challoner's lucky performance, lucky break of the day. Maybe that safety car falling when it did, Whirling having pit, Challoner staying out, maybe.
It's very, very possible. And I mean, that's a great way to segment into the lucky break of the day, because I didn't really even think about that. We knew Whirling and Challenger were up front most of the day, Whirling having the benefit over Challenger, but I mean, it fell perfectly right into Challenger's hands as far as strategy, as far as the timing of said yellow. So I think that's a great way to look at it for the lucky break of the day.
Robert Nash still on Travis Whirling, not letting go of that 90 car just yet, but there is a gap. Down in GT3, a nice little battle here. Brenton Foster has been caught by Kevin Hill. This is for 4th. And maybe you're wondering why is such a large gap on the timing tower from Campbell to Willard. That's because the 5 car of Austin O'Neill runs in 6th. He has already pitted. He's on his out lap currently. Look at that, 9.4 seconds in the box. Not a very long time for that Acura, which makes me wonder, back to the GT3 strategy that we talked about 50 minutes ago, Zach. Those guys that came in at the back end of the caution, I think they're going to be good to go to the end. I think our leaders are going to surprise us and have to pit. I don't think Campbell makes it to the end of this race without having to pit. Granted, he does have 22 seconds of gap to use. So if he needs to save fuel, he's got room to do it. Question is, can he save enough? Is it even close enough?
See, and at Le Mans, I don't know how much. I mean, obviously you could say fuel going into the corners, and that's a lot of track to lose and gain. But again, that's a lot of track for you to get around. You could save as much as you want, but you've got to be full throttle through the straights. You've got to be able to accelerate out of said corners. So, I mean, I feel like there is some fuel saving to be had, but with how long the straights are, unless you're half throttle through the straights trying to conserve, you've got to be full throttle. You've got to be pedal to the metal. So I don't know if Campbell's going to be able to save that much as we look back up here for P2 and LMP2s. Whirling on Peterson, Nash on Whirling.
Here we go.
Whirling to the outside, looking like it's going to come through the Mulsanne curve. Yep, through the first kink. There's going to be GT3s in the way. Is that going to play a factor? It will for the time being. Whirling shoved down a little bit into the grass. These three right on top of each other.
Nearly 3 wide between these 3 LMP2 cars. They're going to pass one of the Fusion GT3 Acuras side by side. 3 wide. They're passing that Acura of Wade. And here comes Nash now. A move on Peterson as we work closer and closer to Indianapolis. They've got to contend with the GT3 car of Coon. 4 wide as they pass that McLaren. Peterson on the left side. Rolling contact with Peterson. A save from Peterson. What in the world? How?
I don't know how. You don't save that car. You do not save that car. With how aero dependent these things are, as soon as it goes sideways, that car's done a tap from Peterson into the back of the GT3. He's able to get it back rolling again, but what a segment. You don't save that car, and what a save from the GT3 as well.
That was pure cinema. This major series, I don't know how they do it. Here's the look from the drone cameras into Indianapolis. Come on, give us a good angle. Right here, Whirling sticks his nose to the inside. Maybe some net code, but how did Peterson lock it down and save that car? Then Whirling just about gets into Nash. He is going for broke. You can tell he wants these positions. Unbelievable. Here's the onboard with Peterson.
Goes way to the outside. That's an incredible move in and of itself. But you don't save the car right here. You don't. Maybe a little bit of net code, but that car's usually around and in trouble. One heck of a save from Peterson.
Let's check one more replay. This is Whirling's on board. This will give us a good bit of context as well. This is why LMP2 is so fun. He's going to dive here, gets into Peterson. I don't know how Peterson saved that car. That is incredible.
And the fact, too, that he didn't really lose much of time on that. He was still able to make the corner. Sure, maybe a little overshot it at the end of said corner, but he was still able to make it. Speechless. That's all I could say right now is I'm speechless.
Wow. That's incredible. That has become, wait for it, auto replay. That is going to take the new place. It's going to stay in the same class. It's going to take the new place, though, of the lucky performance, lucky break of the day. It doesn't get better than that. That is epic. I don't know how he hung on to that race car. He's going to be fourth and might not get back to the top three as a result of it, but what a catch from Peterson to stay in this race.
Well, I'd much rather take fourth and not be able to catch the cars in front of me because of it than take a dead car because I wasn't able to continue. So, I mean, sure, it's a terrible situation.
Trouble for Whirling.
No.
Driver of the day vote leader. Bins it in the Daytona chicane. Here's a look. Sent it up on the inside of Nash. Just completely missed the corner. Completely misjudged it. That is a huge mistake from Whirling.
He just lost where he was on track trying to get as much as he could, and he a little too late coming into the Daytona chicane.
Watch it here. Going by Kevin Hill. Was just never going to make that. Slaps the side of Robert Nash. Careens into the barrier. This race has become unhinged in its final moments. We are about one lap to go at some point here soon. And Whirling has taken his car out of the race. He is done. Down in GT3, Tyler Campbell has pitted. But Christian Abate and Brenton Foster, those two cars we talked about, did not pit. Campbell is on their tailpipes here through Indianapolis and Arnage. We're going to have a straight-up fight in GT3 as well, but different fuel levels. Those two McLarens should be faster on the straightaway. Campbell should be a whole lot faster in the corners.
And just to kind of keep everybody up to date as far as GTP, that lead goes right now. Banfield has fell about a second and a half off leader Nathan Dowd, so really nothing happening there. So this is really the biggest fight going on as far as GT3.
Oh, no! Banfield around. That's going to solidify Dowd ahead and likely for the win here. We should be coming around. Let's check the flag stand camera. No white flag yet. We should be coming to the white flag this time by. There's still a whole lap of racing to go, lap and a half even. But that makes it. Oh, and LaHerbier and Cabani, they do battle. This is Dowd's race to lose. Banfield is still 5 seconds back, and these two battle for third overall.
This is why we love endurance races, because this is exactly what it comes down to. These guys battling for each and every inch, each and every position. And, I mean, we've got two battles for second place in LMP2. We've got a battle for the lead in GT3. We've got a battle here for GTP. I mean, this is incredible racing right here at the end.
Cabani not done yet. Fires back to the inside there. No dice. That's Arnage. They'll work up to the Porsche curves. Should be status quo for these two until they get back around to the Ford and Dunlop chicanes. Down in LMP2, Christian Challoner has a 14-second lead back to Nash. Nathan Dowd comes around now. This will be for the white flag brought to you by Whiplash SimCams this next time by. This will trigger the final lap here in the Le Mans 2.4. In the final seconds of this race. Watch the flag stand. White flag is in hand. Barney's going to wave it right about now. I thought maybe he's not going to wave it. Maybe he's slacking on the job. But that is going to trigger, Zach. You can confirm in the sim. That should trigger white flag, one to go.
Should trigger white flag. I'm not seeing... Well, that's the thing. I'm not seeing white flag for the sim as well. So I'm not for sure... Maybe just a glitch in the system, glitch in the matrix, I don't know, but that should be the white flag as well. He's still got the white flag in hand.
Whiplash SimCams, white flag, one to go. One car is pitting there. I'm trying to find who that is. I honestly can't tell. I think it's Bill Daly, and yes, it is, down in GT3. He's the back end of that class, not a worry right now. Tyler Campbell is... Okay, so Brenton Foster had a mistake, I think. He pitted, actually. That was down in GT3, so Tyler Campbell is now chasing Christian Abate for the GT3 win. They've got a lap and a half to go, though. A lot of time left in that class. So up in Hypercar, Zeke Cabani. Zeke Cabani chasing Vincent LaHerbier. This is for third. No dice yet for the race win. It's 6 seconds between Dowd and Banfield.
I mean, this battle is not done yet as well. Cabani here going to be able to use the draft on LaHerbier. Maybe not right here, but he needs to stay close as possible in order to take that position. Looks like he's going to be about 3 or 4 car lengths off Laherbier, able to get a good jump out of the Daytona chicane. Cabani going to jump out of draft. I think he's kind of conceding the fight.
I think he's short on gas.
He's slowing, yep. So you're not wrong.
No, that was a slowdown. That was a slowdown is what that was. Because he's back to power. So a slowdown for Zeke Cabani ends his run for the podium. Nathan Dowd into the back end of the lap nearly. This will be a 4th win in 6 races for Dowd. Not only did he take a class win at Daytona, he won overall in Hypercar. He's looking to do it again here. 6 seconds up on Banfield. Banfield is closing, but he's got a long ways to go and not nearly enough time to get there. Down in LMP2, it's a 16, nearly 17-second gap between first and second, but Nash has got Peterson to worry about, and look at that right rear for Nash. It is completely towed out. Peterson can get there. We still have a fight for second in class.
Yeah, that's the damage from Warling a little while ago just because of it. So now we're going to take a look to see if Peterson has a chance. You can see, I think this is Nash's on board. It is. You can see him fighting that wheel just because that car probably is not steering or driving the way that he wants it to right now. A little bit of a wiggle. He's trying to do everything he can to keep that car under him just because of that damage on the right rear. You would think that's insignificant, but in these cars, it is very significant. So Nash doing a really good job of keeping that car under him.
Here we go. Final few corners now for Nathan Dowd. There is Christian Abate, who, by the way, just got past, I think. No, Abate's pitting. Abate didn't have enough fuel. That was his teammate we just saw. Abate pits from the lead in GT3. Campbell will take back over. And here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Nathan Dowd will go for a 4th win so long as he solidifies these last couple of corners. The Ford chicanes, the last few corners for Dowd. 4 wins now on the season in 6 races. Nathan Dowd will win at Le Mans and continue his streak of dominance in the 2025 Major Series. Ross Banfield made up 3 seconds in the last lap. He'll finish 2nd. Vincent Laherbier will come home in 3rd. The top 3 all day long stay our top 3 towards the end. Down in LMP2, though, Christian Challoner leads the way, and he's got no worry. Peterson has gone by Nash while we were checking in with the overall race win, and I don't think that's going to be any battle. So the next battle on the racetrack is actually in Hypercar. Tom Dreiling, Daniel B. Johnson, David Hall. They're close. Not really battling Zach, but it's the closest thing in this class.
I mean, right here towards the end, you're going to have to take everything that you can get. But with these cars being this even and this separated, I don't really see much of anything should nothing happen to these cars in the final Ford chicane here. So it looks like it's going to finish out the way that we're seeing here. He's able to gain a little bit of time, but not enough, as everything's going to maintain the way that it is.
Down in GT3, by the way, most of that class has already crossed the line to finish their race. There is Chris Willard. Austin O'Neill finishes 3rd. He just came across the line, 1 lap down. Tyler Campbell leads in GT3. He's down on the backstretch. Christian Challoner is into the Mulsanne corner here. So we will ride this out with LMP2 and then with GT3 as everything is finally calming down. Half of the field has finished the race. Half of the field still has to finish. There is Peterson. He's just behind Campbell. We can finally breathe just a bit here, Zach, as Christian Challoner comes around to complete this race, and then it'll be Campbell as well. Oh my gosh, what a final 15 minutes here at Le Mans.
I mean, it took a lot of breath out of us just because of everything that went down. That's kind of why I went quiet, too. I'm regaining my breath. One hell of a drive for Challoner, though. I mean, with him battling Warling the way that he did, the caution falling the way that it did, and him taking advantage of the opportunity, I mean, he could have, just because of how the caution fell and the way everything went, he could have easily fallen, but just taking advantage of the opportunity and gapping the field by, almost 20 seconds now is an astronomical number. So he's ran one heck of a race. Not going to jinx him just yet. He's still got a couple corners to go through, but he's ran one heck of a race, and if he crosses the line first in the LMP2 class, I think it's well-deserved.
Christian Challoner, a let's see, 17-second race lead in class as he comes around to the Ford chicanes for the final time today, lap 39. He stayed on the overall lead lap with the hypercar leaders. A hell of a drive for sure for Christian Challenger. He will win in class. That's his second straight win after winning the Speedway 500 just a couple of weeks ago. And Tyler Campbell, he'll cement himself after a disappointing effort at Daytona. A couple of bad things happened to him. He will cement himself as a majors race winner, even if just in class here today. That's still a race win nonetheless. Tyler Campbell to victory lane in GT3. Good to see somebody we used to cover back with the Pacific GT3 class and series years ago. Good to see Tyler go back to victory lane here on Pit Stop TV. It's been a long time coming. He will win in GT3. Had this field covered all day long. Christian Abate going to finish 30 seconds behind him. And that, of course, after a pit stop, after Abate took a gamble. I got to commend Abate and Foster. They took a shot. They took a swing. It might have missed. Maybe it was a foul ball, but they tried. They gave it a shot, and you can hear Abate coasting, sputtering to the line.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you said, you got to give them credit where credit is due. You don't beat the leader by doing the exact same thing the leader does. They had to take a swing at it. They had to try to give everything they could, at maybe differing strategy or not. Still, podium P2 for that class. It just it sucks coming down pit road with 1 lap to go.
Nathan Dowd, today's overall race winner. Christian Challenger wins in LMP2. And it's the 0-1 of Tyler Campbell down in GT3. Let's take a second to catch our breaths, breathe for just a moment, and reflect on the last 145 minutes of racing plus a few. And let's go back and take a look at our unofficial, very unofficial, race results when it's all said and done. Nathan Dowd with the race win. We're going to go class by class here. So Nathan Dowd with the race win overall, but especially in hypercar competition. He comes home over Ross Banfield by 3.6 seconds. Vincent Laherbier in third. Zeke Kabani, a great drive, but only fourth place where it was all said and done. Dino Vela, our top Ferrari in the hypercar field. A quiet day, top 5 for him. Sebastian Jackson after that late mistake in 6th. Tom Dreiling in 7th. Daniel Johnson, a late pit stop, completely unhinged his day. He finishes 8th. David Hall, early mistakes put him 9th. And Ryan Steele ends up in 10th. Down through the remainder of your hypercar class. And what it's going to do, we're going to go through each class individually here, Zach, but it's going to show their overall position next to their name. But trust me, this is 11th through 14th in hypercar. Robert Covey, Jason Wallet, Drew Neubauer, and Jesse Canales, who ends up in the 14th spot, a few laps down. And Zach, here is LMP2.
All right, well, continuing off of what Andrew said, Christian Chandler will take the first position, even though it says 13th right there, because of the overall race standings. Christian Chandler will take P1 in the LMP2. Austin Peterson, Robert Nash will follow suit in podium position, 2nd and 3rd. David Schmidt, 4th. Kevin Santana will finish 5th. Overall, 18th. Brian Barnes, 6th. Timothy Klaus in 7th. Shane Vicari in 8th, Andy Banfield in 9th, Bob Beltrami in 10th, 23rd overall through the race. Brian McGreevy will finish 11th, Stephen Paulison will finish 12th, Joseph Homan will finish 13th, Travis Warling will finish his race 27th, but 14th or 27th overall, 14th in LMP2 class. And Robert Northway, after documenting everything that was going on with him, he had to pull off, will finish at the tail end of the LMP2 class, 42nd overall.
And a bit of intel on the Robert Northway situation. He posted in the Majors Series Discord about 37 minutes ago that his pedals, quote, I'm not going to quote him with it, a little family unfriendly, but they stopped working, we'll say, mid-race. He recognized it, pulled off before it could have impacted anybody else's race, and props to Robert for recognizing that and doing so before it did impact somebody else on the racetrack. Down in GT3, Tyler Campbell with the race win, Christian Abate there in 2nd, Austin O'Neill 3rd, then Chris Willard and Brenton Foster, your top 5, Kevin Hill, Peter Cheney, Jackson Wade, Ray Partridge, and Nick Kuhn, your top 10 in GT3. Some disappointing days for some fast cars, especially Nick Kuhn. He was in the top 5, I think, most of the day, ends up 10th when it's all said and done in class. Back to the second page, Wayne Hutchison, Bill Daly, Bryce Roberts, Lynn Kinchlow. Not a great day for Lynn, unfortunately, going to hit him hard in the points, and then Jeff Cardamone out of this race. Did not start, actually. Never made the green flag, it looks like, for Jeff. Unfortunate there. Hopefully he's back with us at Miami in about a month and a half. But Zach, that does it for our unofficial race results. We can move on to some driver interviews here. So far, we have our race winner, Nathan Dowd, and we'll bring him in for the 4th time this season as a race winner. He keeps stacking up these race wins. Nathan, it did not always look like it, though. What put you out ahead of Ross Banfield there at the end?
It sounds like, just talking to him before this, it sounds like he made a little mistake on his pit stop. I think I just barely got by him on the pit out there. I think if he would have got ahead of me, it would have been really tough for me to get by him. He was killing me on the straights and the chicanes. I would get him on the S's and some of the little tighter bits there, but when you're at a deficit on the straights here and then the chicanes, you can't get a good run on them. It makes it really hard to pass kind of anywhere else. Yeah, I guess a little misfortune on his part, and that, I guess, played in my favor.
It did seem like he had a leg up on you here today. Of course, this racetrack mostly straightaways. As you mentioned, he had you on the straights. So what is that like, knowing that he's got you by just a little bit on the straightaways, but you can try to maximize those areas where you have him by just a little bit? What is that like, kind of fighting that uphill battle for 2.4 hours?
Yeah, I could tell kind of where we were that first stint. I just kind of stayed behind him there, tried to stay within about a second. And just kind of using him to save as much as I could, and I figured if it was going to be really hard to pass him, I could tell. And then so I figured my best shot was just try to save more than he could and maybe get him on the pit stop. It didn't quite work on that first pit. It was really close. I think we came out basically next to each other there, and he just had a nose on me, so I had to let him go. But yeah, and then with the safety car there kind of thrown in the middle, you don't really know exactly how that's going to divide the fuel mileage, but kind of landed right in the middle, so it made it pretty straightforward fuel mileage wise there. I was hoping to stay behind him there after the restart, but I just could not go on the cold tires. And then Vince got by me too, so I let him get a pretty big gap. So I figured it was over at that point, but I made a little bit of a strategy call there to pit, kind of undercut before we got to the GT3 traffic, or right as we were getting to it, hoping maybe he'd get caught up in traffic and I could make up time that way maybe. Figured that was my only chance at that point.
And of course, this is a tune-up for the 24 here in a couple of weeks. What did you learn here today that you can apply moving forward to that oh-so-coveted Majors 24?
Yeah, I mean, this is just getting comfortable on the track again. I don't run this track. This is one of those tracks you don't really run too often. It's kind of like it's a big deal for a couple weeks here, and then you don't really run it too often. And that's so just kind of learning the track again, getting comfortable on it, getting into the rhythm of it. Yeah, hopefully we can get a team together and give that a shot in a couple weeks here. It's always a lot of fun, the team endurance races. We love doing those.
Well, it's good to talk to you once again, Nathan. Congratulations on this big win here for you today. 4th on the season. It's going to be big for you in the points. Can't wait to see what happens for you at Miami moving forward.
Yeah, thank you.
That's Nathan Dowd with the race win here today. He's always a little bit quiet, always a little bit stoic almost with these win interviews. Like, it's just so nonchalant to him that he wins these races, Zach, but he's always good to talk to, and that's Nathan's kind of outlook on today's race. Let's bring in second place in Hypercar. It's going to be Ross Banfield here for you, Zach.
As we talk to Ross Banfield, Ross, we were documenting your speed all race. I mean, you still had speed right there at the end. You made up 3 seconds on Nathan Dowd right there at the end. Talk to us about your race a little bit. Like you said, we kind of documented your speed and how you were kind of covering the field until that last stop right there. So just talk to us about the race a little bit, what you felt, and what you saw right there at the end.
Well, it was definitely my late race to lose, and I I definitely threw it at the end. I don't know if you guys were tracking the pit stop timer, but I felt like I lost a ton of time because I missed my box. And then I was overfilling the car, and I went to cancel it, but I didn't realize by turning the knob down it reset the fill. And so then it started filling my car again, so I lost a good chunk of time on that last stop. And through my panic, I accidentally took my roll bars way down what they should have been. So that's where I spun, and when I spun, I looked down and realized my settings were all off. So I guess a little bit of panic, but I mean, for the most of the race, it was more just trying to shake him. I couldn't shake him because of the draft, but I was trying to get some space between us, but he kept me pretty honest the entire time. So, you know, if I'm gonna lose, at least I lost to someone that was right up on me the entire time.
Yeah, and we were kind of talking about it through the entirety of the race, that Dowd pretty much was in your shadow the entire time, in your tire track, so to say. But right there, after the caution and after everything had kind of cycled through, you were able to scoot away from him. Was there ever a time where you felt like you could breathe, or when you saw him come down pit road, did you feel like now's the time I need to capitalize? What was going through your mind when the first set, or excuse me, the pit stop started happening and you saw him come down?
So I was basically in my mind thinking, I need to push this lead because he's going to get stuck behind the GT3s that I just went through. So I was trying to take advantage of that, but the track conditions were changing for the worse for my setup. I found that I was starting to get really, really loose, and I was just losing, like, you know, a second here or there, like maybe a lap or the next lap. And so I was trying to just settle back down, get into rhythm. And so I told myself, you know, I just got to focus on this pit stop, and then you all saw how that went. But other than that, it was more just, you know, trying to hit my marks, trying not to ruin anyone's race, especially the LMP2s or the GT3s, because sometimes the speed differential between the different drivers is pretty huge, and sometimes, you know, people zig when you think they're going to zag, so you know, you just got to stay on a head on a swivel.
Yeah, we kind of documented that too, about the faster cars coming through the little bit of slower cars. It seemed like you guys were able to make pretty quick work of it. Was there ever a time where you thought this was going to lose me a bunch of time, or this was it? Was there, or what was it? Pretty much smooth sailing for you for the entirety of the race?
There were some people that were fighting me a little bit on the turns as I was passing them, and I was like, "Oh, you guys are killing me."
Yeah, we kind of figured as much, just because, like I said, the faster cars coming through the slower cars, zigging when they should have zagged, and you zigging when you should have zagged. It was definitely something cool to watch you guys come through and do it with grace. You guys really didn't make any kind of hectic moves, but we appreciate you coming in here. Like I said, it sucks coming in second, especially off of everything that came down, but the speed that you showed today shows that you definitely worthy of a win at some point. We hope to see you in the 24, but buddy, we appreciate you coming up in here.
That's Ross Banfield this evening, second place in hypercar contention. Let's move on down to GT3. We don't have any of the LMP2 drivers that have joined us. Christian Challoner, Austin Peterson. If you guys do want to join, there is a link in the Majors general chat. Feel free to do so. But let's move on down to that GT3 category. It'll be Tyler Campbell winning in GT3, and it's oh so good bringing this particular driver in here. We chatted a little bit on Facebook, Tyler, after Daytona. Good to see you back on the racetrack here in the Major Series, and tonight in Victory Lane as well. What does this mean to you and your team to go out here in a 2.4-hour race like this and put this kind of clinic on the field?
Well, Andrew, I've known you a long time, so it's really quite a pleasure to kind of be here talking with you in Victory Lane. Worked really hard for this. Got a shout out to my team, Walk Esports, for really helping me out and helping push me and giving me some data and coaching in order to, you know, get the most out of the car. You know, perfect practice makes perfect, dude. I just try to make sure I spend as much time focused on this race so that way I could represent my team the best I can.
And you represented very well this evening, leading just about the entire race. There were some questions with when the full course yellow came out about fuel strategy, especially for the GT3 class, because of the timing of that caution and the timing of the restart. What was your plan? Why did you end up solidifying in that plan to prioritize track position and take the short pit later?
Ultimately, I knew I had pace on everybody, so it was kind of one of those things where as I made sure to just maximize my stint lengths as often as I could. And then as soon as I had a comfortable gap, it was just about trying to match the lap times of my competitors while, saving fuel as much as I could. Definitely was sweating there at the end when I saw that McLaren stay out for that extra lap. And I didn't really know whether or not I was going to get the white flag or the checker. So I'm really grateful that things went my way, but as all things with racing, it's like it's a bit of a dice roll, and you just kind of have to stay confident and not let the doubt creep into your mind and focus lap after lap.
Well, Tyler, it's so good to be able to focus on you a whole lot tonight and kind of rekindle that old friendship that we had so long ago and put you back on the screen. Congratulations on the race win. And if you are partaking in the 24 here in a couple of weeks, best of luck. Hopefully we'll see you then as well.
Thanks, dude. I'm going to be busy doing stuff for work, but I'll be watching from Road America as I'll be working the SCCA June sprints with some of my team. So I hope you guys have a good time with that.
Absolutely, Tyler. It's good to talk to you once again. It's been a long time, and congratulations. That's Tyler Campbell this evening, finishing first in GT3 competition here at Le Mans. Zach, we'll move on down, and actually we're going to backtrack a little bit from GT3 because Christian Challoner has now connected. So here comes your LMP2 race winner, Zach. It's Christian Challoner.
We're talking to Christian Challoner now, LMP2 winner, buddy. We were documenting you throughout the race, you and your battle with Warling. I completely forgot his name. We were documenting your battles there for the first part of the race, and then you just took off right there after the caution. What did you see? What did you feel? Talk to us about your race a little bit.
So it was interesting. It kind of started out really on the Friday night when I was in practice and qualifying, and I realized I had better pace than I expected, but I kind of thought that people would get closer in the race, and they totally did. Travis was definitely there, and then my own teammates Austin and Robert were also kind of like getting better as the race went on. So I sort of felt like my advantage was maybe ebbing away the longer the race went. But most of my battle tonight was, well, I was battling with Travis, and I was battling against my own PC, because I don't know if you guys caught it, but I had a really savage like 3-second screen freeze on like lap 1, where I ended up just dropping behind him. It was like I time warped behind him. So yeah, I was kind of conscious of having those kind of moments throughout the rest of the race. I kind of only had maybe 1 or 2 more major ones like that, but yeah, it was always a worry. I mean, it kind of is what it is. I'm one of those people who actually leave my PC on a really long time, and it's been awake for a while, and it probably needs a little bit of a rest. But yeah, it was a good race. Other than that, prior to the race, myself and Christian Abbott had talked about what to do with the safety car procedure, and I think that was where we really got a big advantage. We realized that if you're not in the GTP class, then you really actually don't want to pit on the first time the safety car kind of comes around, especially if you're going to clear the GTP class leader. And that's what happened with Travis, right? Like he pit at the end of that lap, and he ended up getting stuck behind all those guys and having to take the wave by, whereas myself, Austin, Robert, and I think a couple other guys in the P2 class, we all cycled our way all the way past, and then he was dropped behind, and that really helped me out a lot. Kind of did make the last part of the race significantly easier. The difficulty after the safety car was really all about trying to figure out how much fuel we needed, because the caution not being a real caution just completely blew up every single fuel calculator we had, and I was sat there driving down the straight using my like 20-year-old Casio trying to like punch in numbers and figure out how long we had left. And yeah, it was became a different kind of race, but sort of, yeah, it's still pretty fun. I do like Le Mans. It's always good, and it's fun to do it in the P2.
Yeah, we were kind of documenting after that caution about your idea to stay out, and at first we were kind of questioning it, but obviously not anymore. And we did not catch your little bit of an issue there at the start of the race, which makes your race through even that much more phenomenal and spectacular, to the fact of you being able to come out here and pretty much dominate that second half of the race. Moving forward, though, do you expect to run the Majors 24? And if so, how do you expect to run, or are you expecting to run, is what I should ask.
I don't think we will this year. We've ran it in the past, but I actually know that I can't already because it's June 21st and I'm already out that day. So, unfortunately, I can't. I don't know if the other guys will or not. June is a great month for endurance racing, but there's also a lot of it in real life as well. So, yeah, we're all kind of a little bit busy this year. It's a shame because when we ran it, I want to say 2 years ago, when we had the C8 GTE, we had a really good time with that. It was a really tough race. I imagine it'll be a really tough race this year, especially if they have rain. So, a little quick shout out to everybody doing that. Good luck, because it's a fun event. And thank you for the majors guys putting it on, because I know it is kind of become a premier event in its own way, even though it's often hosted in league land. But it's cool to see it. And yeah, good luck to guys running that. But unfortunately, we won't be. I don't think.
Got you. It makes sense. I mean, life takes precedence over the sim. Well, buddy, we do appreciate you coming up and here spending your time, especially after a win. Go celebrate. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I hope life continues on the way that it does, especially through the month of June. So appreciate you being up here with us, buddy.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for the broadcast. Appreciate it.
That's Christian Challoner's second win in a row for Christian, from the Speedway 500 back in May, now to Le Mans here in June. Let's bring in second place GT3 driver Christian Abate. And Christian, a long race here, of course, at Le Mans, but you come home second place. Talk of the town, though, in GT3, because of the timing of that caution, became fuel. What was the outlook for you? Why did you pit when you did?
Oh man, I was hoping I didn't have to pit there at the end. I had it in my head. I knew the lap count to get to the end, at least for me, but I think I just mistimed where the GTP leader was, because that realization hit way too late. But it still worked out. I was able to nick second there at the end, because I don't think Austin filled to go one lap more. So I saw he didn't make it on that last lap, so I was able to inherit second just by going one more, because the GTP leader never caught me. So everyone that he lapped by that point, they were all done. But yeah, I saw the amount of time left after the safety car and figured, well, it's going to be close. So all I got to do is save one more lap. And I think, looking back on it, if I pitted right when we went to green after that safety car, that would have at least given me a better shot for it. I still would have had the fuel save, but I don't know by how much I would have had to do it, but yeah.
And we pretty well documented the fact that you and teammate Brenton were conjoined at the hip, it seemed like, most of the race. What's the outlook going forward? Obviously, you guys are teammates here tonight. Are you guys going to be teammates in the same car in the Majors 24? If you're partaking, what's the outlook there here in a couple weeks?
We haven't talked about doing the 24, but I'm sure we'll get the Giga team together and be under one car if we do decide to do that. I think we probably have a good decent of fun if everyone's around and able to do it. But I think as right now as it, we're just looking towards Miami and Homestead with the old Dallara.
Well, Christian, it's good to talk to you. I think for the first time this season. Best of luck as we move forward. Miami is fast approaching, and we can't wait to see you out there on the track.
Yep, thank you.
And we'll move him back down. That's Christian Abate with the second place effort in GT3. And Zach, this means we can bring in Austin O'Neill as our final interview of the evening. Driver number 5 was second place a lot of today, but finishes third here in GT3.
We're talking to Austin O'Neill, P3, a podium for the GT3 class. We were kind of documenting your choice in Acura, where everybody else was kind of like BMW and other cars throughout the field. First question I'll ask is about the race and how you felt through it, but I do kind of want to get a glimpse at why you chose the Acura and what it felt like to you. But first and foremost, how did the race go for you? What did you see? How did you feel like the race went for you?
I think overall the race was good. I think there's definitely some key moments in there that I could have done differently. Not really knowing when the safety car was going to come out was kind of the big question mark on what I was going to do fuel-wise. And I felt that my, I guess, race pace and what I put together was probably the best that I could do with what I was kind of dealt with today. But yeah, towards the end, we just got kind of put in a bad spot with fuel, where I was going to be short, and trying to figure out how we were going to get around that and still hang on to our podium was tough. But I think overall the race was good. I had some mistakes. I lost some decent time to Tyler when I got turned around just on a pure mistake, and was kind of disappointed that I maybe couldn't have put a better charge to him. But kind of touching on your car choice question here later on, the radar for me was a McLaren or an Acura, and the Ford kind of stunk up the show for me, and they kind of flew under the radar. So I was a little kind of caught off guard with that the entire race, trying to figure out how I got kind of snookered on that. But overall, the race was good, and I can leave here with high confidence heading into the 24 in a couple weeks.
I think as you should, just because of the fact of, I think we were kind of looking at you. You fell a little bit there about the mid part of the race, really around the caution came out, and you were able to run yourself back up into the P3 position for the GT3. Shifting gears a little bit, you said you guys are running the 24. What did this race do as far as confidence-wise, as far as strategy-wise? Did this race really give you any kind of indication on how the 24 is going to go? We know there's probably going to be rain, or there is a very, very high percentage of chance of there being rain. So what did you learn from this race that you could take over to the 24?
Well, the big thing we took over was, or at least myself, the team that we're going to put together for the 24 all ran the same car, same class. Actually, my teammate Chris finished third. Bryce and Jackson weren't far too behind us, and we all left, speaking right before this, with confidence of at least knowing this place. Like, we've never been here before. So to spend almost 2.5 hours, in race trim taught us a lot about how, we can anticipate the kind of the race pace and how the race might go with traffic and some other things leading into the 24. But we really can't take any notes. We're going to get a big tire and car rework before that. So our notebook's kind of out the window, but it was still important to us to at least get some laps and experience under our belts, so we don't kind of come into that race blind, and see what we can do, see if we can't pick up a 24.
Well, it's actually decently impressive that you guys had no clue what this racetrack was like, and to come in here and still step on the podium. So honestly, well-deserved P3 then. If you guys had never seen this track, it's an awesome race for you. Appreciate you coming in here, waiting through all the other interviews, and coming up here with us and chatting with us for a little bit, buddy.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Yeah, coming here and seeing where we started at the beginning of the month and to where we are now, at least for myself, it's a huge accomplishment, but I can't thank you guys enough for putting on a great broadcast, and we'll see you down the road, hopefully.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
That's Austin O'Neill with the third place effort here in GT3. And, for those of you still watching, first of all, thank you for doing so. We'll wrap up the driver of the day conversation. That vote has been live. Usually we conclude that at the end of results reading, but there weren't many votes. More came in, and Travis Whirling is today's driver of the day. And Zach, I gotta say, that's, I think, pretty deserving. Despite the mistake he made there at the end, Car 90 put together an epic effort. It was a lot of fun to watch at every step of the way. I know it didn't finish the race necessarily, but regardless, only 2 laps down at the end, made it to the very last moments, and was always a threat to win in LMP2. He was definitely one that we talked about a lot, and I think deserving of today's North American Racing League Driver of the Day effort and vote. Let's also touch on Lucky Break of the Day. I think that still goes to Austin Peterson. Coincidentally, also in LMP2, of course, with that save he had at the hands of Travis Whirling, oddly enough. Congrats to both of those drivers getting a couple of broadcast awards here at the end of the day. But Zach, let's take a look at what's upcoming for us, not just here at Pit Stop TV, but also in the Majors Series. First up, our next few broadcasts take us to the BRB Butt Kicker Cup Series race at COTA on Tuesday. We're using the west layout there of Circuit of the Americas, just like the NASCAR Cup Series, albeit with out the NASCAR modifications done to it. So it'll be a very fun and unique course there on Tuesday. Then it's Bristol in a couple of weeks after, and then of course rain insured Chaos in the Majors 24, June 21st and 22nd. It's going to be a marquee event as always, Zach. You can see that bit of rain there in the picture on the right-hand side of your screen. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, especially around this track where you got to go from such high speeds to such low speeds, especially in rain. You've got to be offline. You've got to be on your mark the entire time. So, I mean, like you said, chaos ensued, but I think it's going to be a good race regardless.
You see those different social media links at the bottom of your screen: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, and X. We're going to up our game, I think, this summer and post a little more on our social media platforms, so keep an eye out for that. But it always is appreciated when you follow us on our platforms here at Pitstop TV. That'll do it for us, though, this evening here at Le Mans. We can also take a look at what's upcoming for us in the major series. You heard Christian Abate mention Miami coming up in the old IndyCar, the first-gen IndyCar, at least, that was added to iRacing. The IR05 will be used for that Grand Prix of Miami here in the Americas region. It'll be a couple of different racetracks being used across those regions that weekend, so I think it'll be the same car at a few different racetracks. I want to say Twin Ring Motegi is in there, I think, either for international or European, but we will be headed to Miami, Homestead Miami Speedway, for the Americas region. Should be a lot of fun on July 20th, and then we carry on the World Series of Asphalt, Petit Le Mans, the 7500, the Bathurst 500, and the Japanese Grand Prix in November to wrap up this 2025 Major Series. Zach, I know you're brand new to the Major Series, but looking at what's left here, the back end of the schedule, what are you most excited for?
The most I'm excited for, I don't know. I feel like the New Smyrna race, the World Series at New Smyrna, the Super Lates, I think that would be a really good race, especially with a bunch of guys coming in here. And you can see there's some NASCAR ovals on the track before, but I feel like the Super Lates are going to be a whole new battle in and of itself. The next gen at Darlington, I feel like that'd be really cool. But to see the IMSA classes at the Petit, I feel like that's going to be a really good race as well. Track's always put on a good race, so I feel like that would be one of the next ones circled. So those would be really the three after Miami would probably be the one that I'd keep my eyes on. But obviously, other drivers have other fields and other priorities. So I think the rest of the schedule is pretty jam packed with a bunch of good races. But that would be the three that I'd have.
Well, thanks for tuning in this evening. One more thank you to our partners, Whiplash SimCams, ATVOs, CC's Business, Cody Williams Zion, Lucky Performance, and the North American Racing League. And Zach, thank you for taking on this ambitious effort this evening. I know this isn't necessarily what you do every day, but I appreciate you joining me for this, and I hope to have you back for the Majors 24 coverage and more coming soon, maybe with some other series. It was good to have you back on the mic, and I'm very much looking forward to your next time here with us at Pitstop T. But for now, Pitstop TV. There we go. But for now, that'll be it for us from the virtual Le Mans here in the virtual northern France. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you all next time here at Pitstop TV. Can't wait for that Majors 24. It's coming right up. We'll see you then.
Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work, so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Somebody, anybody, really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.